Welcome back to the PFF NFL show. Trevor Sikkema, Dalton Wasserman here with you guys to recap everything that we saw so far from week 4. I got to say so far because we got a Monday night doubleheader coming up. But Dalton, very excited to go through these grades. We'll go through the top 5s of every single team. We'll go through the matchups. We'll give you the most impressive, the most disappointing, and, of course, the stat that told the story. How are we feeling today, my friend?
We're good. We had a loaded college weekend on top of that. We had 12 games to preview, 11 games to review. It was a stacked college slate, and then obviously a really good NFL slate again. And a lot of storylines. It feels like this is the week where a lot of teams, they're going to have to start digging themselves out of some holes, right? Going through some adversity, getting into the middle part of the season, working through some injuries. So there's going to be some adjustments happening over the next few weeks, especially for some big-name teams.
Connor Rogers and I are doing power rankings now on the NFLSC channel, and when we get to sort of like those middle of the pack teams, there is a lot of like, I don't know yet. Like, we've got to figure, because they were kind of, they sort of, some teams had one part of their identity in week 1 and week 2. Now week 3 and week 4 is something a little bit different. What's the real version of each of these teams? We're going to try to figure that out here over the next couple of hours as we review every single game. We're talking about a lot of stats here in the show. If you guys don't have a PFF Plus subscription, now is a great time to get one. You can get one right now, even before the show starts, so you can follow along. You can look up all the numbers that we're going to talk about here. You can look up your own numbers and everything you could find in the PFF system. You can get it 25% off with the promo code NFLSC. No, that's the show that I was just on.
Easy now.
PFF NFL show. I know. I can't take the promo code away
now
from you. That would have been funny. PFF NFL show 25. That's the one for this show in particular. So if you want to support Dalton, use that promo code. If you don't, maybe find a different one.
You didn't hear me bring up the college one. See that?
Now you just did, though.
Now I know.
Now you just did.
Well, I didn't say what it was, though. They know. Subscribe to the college channel. You'll know.
There you go. 25% off, though. PFF NFL show 25 is how you do that. Man, I'm looking forward to digging into this because there's a lot of really great games to get to. Starting off with, I can't believe I'm saying this. A great game to get to is a tie. A tie? How are we doing this? How's it 2025 and we still got NFL games ending in a tie? How do you, first of all, before we get into this, how do you feel about ties? Do you think it should be different? And if you do, how do you think it should be different?
I mean, how do you want it? You want to just go to the 2-point plays like college? We could just do that.
To be honest with you, yes.
Although I was talking to somebody last night, too, saying that we should go back to, if we're going to do it the way where both teams are guaranteed a shot, then we should go back to 15 minutes and give them 5 more minutes to settle it.
So what I would actually do, because I'm a big advocate of, I don't like ending games that matter a lot in like a mini game format, right? Soccer, football for those of us who are watching across the pond, they end in penalty kicks. And like penalty kicks is very exhilarating. It's very fun. There's so much stress hanging in the balance of like a single kick. There's so much pressure in these moments. Like for hockey, like you go to shootout, right, in the regular season. But when you get to the postseason for hockey, you can't end a game in a shootout. You just play more hockey. That's how you end the game. I would love for that to be the case with football as well, American football. But the dangers of the game, playing a violent game while you're even more exhausted, do guys start getting hurt a little bit more? I do get worried about that a little bit. So to be honest with you, what I would do is I would sort of start overtime the way that it starts now, but then once the clock hits 0, yeah, I'd go 2-point conversion, back and forth. That's what I would do to settle this game, to allow one of these teams to actually feel like they won the football game in the end. Because when you tie, it just feels like everybody loses. That's what it feels like in this one. And it's not supposed to feel that way. It's supposed to feel in the middle, but somehow it doesn't. Somehow it maybe even feels worse than a loss.
Yeah, I mean, the 2-point plays, that's obviously what college has gone to now after the second overtime. They play 2 of them, and if it's still unsettled, then they go to the 2-point plays. And even then, we've seen the 2-point plays drag out back and forth, too, like the shootouts in hockey or soccer, let's say. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where is it ever going to be perfect? Is anyone ever going to feel great about a tie? No, I think there's one team in this game that might feel a little better about it, all things considered, but and especially the fact after such a fantastic game that ended up 40-40. I mean, it's just it is weird. It does feel kind of empty, and I also found it interesting the decision from Matt LaFleur to just go ahead and take the tie as opposed to the alternative of an unlikely 4th and 13.
Yes.
And general, obviously the conversion rates on that are going to be very low, especially down in the red zone, and just going, you know what? Let's take it as half a win. If this ends up being our tiebreaker over the Lions or Minnesota or somebody in the division, then so be it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a lot of craziness in how the last second of that game played out. You could hear Chris on the broadcast when Jordan Love is throwing the ball into the back of the end zone. You can hear him. He's like, oh my gosh, they took away their chance to even come away with a tie here. So it was just wacky until the very end. But let's dig into it a little bit further, okay? This game ends 40-40. And normally we list off the top 5s of the team that won first. We don't have one of those in this game.
We didn't even think about that. What do we do?
But I'm going to go with the Packers because at least they had the highest graded player in this game, and it was Micah Parsons. So there's full irony there because he used to be on the other side, and now he's at the Packers. But top 5 graded Green Bay Packers in this game. 94.2 overall grade for Micah Parsons at the top of that list. Running back Josh Jacobs next with an 81.8. Linebacker Isaiah McDuffie with a 79.5. Linebacker Edgerrin Cooper a 77.5. Then offensive tackle Darian Kinnard a 74.8. Jordan Love in this one a 78.6. On Dallas' side of things, edge rusher James Houston with an 89.3. Cornerback Trayvon Diggs an 83.3. Wide receiver George Pickens had himself one hell of an evening. 81.9 overall grade. Wide receiver Kevontae Turpin a 72.9. And then edge rusher Jadeveon Clowney, who is wearing number 42, which I just think should be illegal, to be honest with you.
Well, they have a 41 and a 42.
I know. It's an abomination to the sport is what it is.
What, it doesn't look good on them?
42 and 41 for your top edge rushers?
Well,
get out of here.
They traded number 11. See what happened? Look what they did.
11 is a lot better than 42. We got to figure that out, Jadeveon. But he's the new guy there. You know, maybe we'll get around to a single-digit number at some point. Dak Prescott in this one, an 84.6. Dak was excellent in this game, and he has been the entire season. But I want to start with you. Of all the things that we could talk about in this game, obviously we talked about our opinions of what we think about tying in general, but your stat that told the story of how we ended up with a 40-40 thriller here on Sunday Night Football.
How we ended up here is I'll just talk about both teams because they tied. It's just you have two passing offenses that teed off on each other. And honestly, Trevor, it felt like when I was going through the numbers of this game, I was looking once again at the USC-Illinois game that was played on Saturday over there in Champaign, and just two passing games that absolutely shredded the opposing defenses. These two teams combined for 17 explosive passes of 15 or more yards, and they went about it two different ways. The Packers had 10 explosives, but they did it mostly with yards after the catch. 256 yards after the catch in this game for the Green Bay Packers. The receivers were just breaking tackles, making big plays after the catch. Unbelievable stuff. The Cowboys, 7 explosive plays themselves in the passing game. Dak Prescott went 8 of 13 on 10-plus yard throws. You mentioned it. There's a reason he was their highest-graded player. He is their best player right now. I don't think there's any question about that. Dak Prescott, one of the highest-graded quarterbacks in football. He was great. Jordan Love, until the very, very last sequence, was great. I mean, I think you just had – I think we kind of sort of expected something to this degree from the Cowboys defense because they're just not very good. It was more surprising to see the Packers defense and just the number of big plays they gave up. And it even shows in the grades right there that Micah Parsons was really the one guy making a big impact to try to deter this. He had 10 pressures. The rest of the Packers had 9. And I believe Carl Brooks had 5 of them. So when you look at just these two secondaries, especially, and how much they struggle and how much these two quarterbacks were allowed to tee off on the opposing defense, it's really no wonder that both teams scored 40 points in this game, especially, again, when they combined for 17 explosive passes.
Yeah, it was fun. You know, like all jokes about ending the game in a tie aside, this was a really fun football game. And I'll tell you, the most impressive for me was Dak Prescott in this one. And he has been unbelievable to start the season. It's why I was sort of shocked about how they played against the Chicago Bears last week because it felt like it was so different than the first couple of weeks. And I was like, man, did they just kind of start hot because they come out of the gate fully motivated to play the Philadelphia Eagles? And you go, okay, well, obviously anybody can get up to play the defending champs. The defending champs are going to get everybody's best at any point in time, especially with that being a rivalry. Then they play the New York Giants next week. It's an absolute shootout. All right, that's kind of an outlier performance anyways, which I guess it's not because that game ended 40-37, did it not? And this game here 2 weeks later ends 40-40, so I guess that's just kind of the Dallas Cowboys thing. But how he played in this game, specifically under pressure, 88.7 passing grade under pressure. And just to give people context, like when we talk about passing grades, the guys with the best passing grades in the NFL, they're high 90s or they're low 90s, high 80s. Like Dak has, I believe it's the second highest passing grade of full-time starting quarterbacks over the first 4 weeks. He's just behind Matthew Stafford with I think it's a 90.2 or 90.4, something in that range. When you have an under pressure grade, something in the mid-60s is a good under pressure grade for quarterbacks. High 80s is, I mean, you're talking about playing the position at an insanely high level. And it's not just this game. Dak Prescott, I believe he would still have the highest passing grade under pressure for any quarterback in the NFL right now through 4 weeks. 88.7 passing grade for him in this one, 12 for 14 when pressured, one big-time throw, no turnover-worthy plays, 162 passing yards when he was under pressure in this one. So, yeah, you mentioned Carl Brooks got a handful of pressures. Micah Parsons got 10 pressures. And I believe it was Drake in the chat who was saying, like, man, Parsons just didn't feel like he had that good of a game from when we were watching live. But when you go back and you see all the pressures, the passer win rate, all of that stuff for Parsons, you see why his grade would be that high. But the reason it doesn't feel like that is because of how Dak played around the pressure, how he escaped, how he continued to complete passes, all of that. Dak Prescott is the reason why, and I thought that this is a great way to set up this conversation to just start this episode. Dak Prescott and how he played under pressure is why people might look at Micah Parsons' grade and go, why is it that high? He didn't really do anything. Well, yeah, he didn't do anything from a tackles and a sack perspective, although he did get that one sack that was sort of right at the line of scrimmage. It's because of how well Dak was playing under pressure. So just that was my most impressive in this one is they're struggling on defense. They're up and down on offense when it comes to not having CeeDee Lamb out there, although George Pickens was phenomenal in this game. As long as Dak Prescott is playing like this, they can hang with anybody any week.
Absolutely. And you look at what he's doing without CeeDee Lamb, without Tyler Booker in this game, without his center, Cooper Beebe. And now you take that over the scope of the first 4 games. 87.5 passing grade under pressure over the first 4 games, which is just ridiculous. 8 big-time throws already under pressure. The next closest player, Matthew Stafford, has 5. No, I mean, this is the reason, the fact that he's handling all of this adversity. I think the Cowboys are last in the league in pass blocking grade, or in the bottom 3. They're dead last in the league in pass blocking grade. And yet he's finding a way to get this done right now. And I know they're, 1-2-1? We're going to have to do the thing with the records with these 2 teams all year, but he's the only reason.
I think that's what pissed me off the most is now I have to say and 1
from week 5.
I know. If we got this in week 16, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Now we got to do it through 3/4 of the season.
And for at least one, if not both of these teams, that's going to be a major factor in the playoff race and especially the NFC North race, right? But they're dead last in pass blocking grade. And yet Dak Prescott's the highest graded passer under pressure with just a ridiculous – I don't even know how he could keep that up for much longer, assuming their pass protection doesn't get better. But the way he's playing right now, he's the reason they have a pulse. He's really the only reason they have a pulse, if we're being honest.
Most impressive and most disappointing for you?
Most impressive for me, George Pickens. I mean, without CeeDee Lamb, you need him to play like a number 1 receiver. And when you talk about hitting those deep shots, this was the element that was missing in the Cowboys offense last year without another complement to Lamb. 80.9 receiving grade. 8 catches, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, and I think a big stat for me, and this just comes with having George Pickens on your team and embracing him, 15.7 yard average depth of target. He's going to be the vertical threat. He's going to win those contested situations more often than not. That's just what he does, and in a game like this where you needed him to be that number 1 guy, he certainly was. And on the other side, the most disappointing, it's the Packers cornerbacks, right? They played a great game a couple weeks ago against Washington. Obviously, they were good against the Browns because that team, they just can't throw the football. But you look at Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine, Nate Hobbs. They combined to allow 14 catches for 191 yards and 3 touchdowns. This still, coming out of this game now and the way we just saw them play, cornerback for me is going to be the biggest question for the Packers and stopping big-time passing games and number one receivers head-to-head against teams like the Lions, against teams like the Rams, against teams like the Eagles. Do you have enough on the outside? Can you get those good efforts on the outside like you got against Washington to stop the A.J. Browns and Puka Nakuas and Justin Jeffersons and Amon-Ra St. Browns? You have to be able to at least slow down these number one receivers. We've seen him do it in the past, especially the game against Washington a couple weeks ago. This game, not at all. The cornerbacks need to be better than this.
Yeah, and to me, that was sort of the stat that told the story for me, is that the corners were so poor in this game that it's really what allowed this to be as high-scoring of an affair as it was, and honestly why I think the Packers didn't come away with the win. For as great as Dak Prescott played, if the corners on Green Bay play a little bit better, I think the Packers win this football game. I really do, and we've seen them play well this season, but that is sort of just more fuel on the fire that this Packers team has as high of a ceiling as anybody in the NFL. I really do believe that. But their floor is a little bit lower when it comes to the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs and the volatility of who you are as a team than I think a lot of people are comfortable with when we talk about Super Bowl favorites. Because the Packers, again, for as much as they are a team that can win the Super Bowl, to me, they are one of those teams that they kind of have to be hot heading into the playoffs, or this could even be a first-round exit for a team like this. Now, we got a long way to go before January, so we'll sort of have a much clearer picture when we get to that point. But cornerbacks are another thing that I agree with you completely. I think that was a stat that told the story and how poorly they played in this one. I also thought that the most disappointing on the other side of things for the Dallas Cowboys, Kaiir Elam didn't give up a ton of catches in this one, but he gave up 2 touchdowns. And specifically, it was the way that he played both of those touchdowns. Both of them were against Romeo Doubs. Both of them he was in, well, the first one he was in man coverage when it was the close touchdown that was closer towards where the end zone was. But he's playing like outside leverage against him, and there's no linebacker who's dropping into like a shallow, like a hook curl zone or anything. There's no safety that's sort of towards their side. Now, it's a first and goal at the one situation, and so they were all sort of loading up to defend the run on that one. But I don't understand why Elam is lined up in outside leverage position and just so easily giving up the slant pass to Romeo Doubs. Why wouldn't you have him? Now, I don't know if this is an Elam thing or if it's a Matt Eberflus thing. I don't know what it is, but why would you not have that player align with inside leverage so that if Doubs is going to run a slant route, like a quick slant, he's got to run into or through Elam, and then he's sort of in his hip and we're making a difficult contested catch in that situation. Or if you want to say you're going to give him a step to the goal line fade. Make them complete a goal line fade pass as opposed to an easy slant pass. And then when it came to the other touchdown, it was a little bit further back. I think it was right on the edge of the red zone. Maybe it was a little further out from the red zone. But it was, again, a situation where Elam's playing with outside leverage, and it wasn't man coverage. I think it was more of like a cover 3 look. But Doubs cuts to the inside so quickly that Elam had no chance on that one either. So something's got to change with how Kaiir Elam is playing within the structure of this defense. I don't know if it's a him thing. I don't know if he's just wanting to play outside leverage, or if Eberflus is kind of saying, hey, play outside and give up the inside. But clearly, in this game, they made it way too easy for them to do that. And I think other teams are going to notice that, is sort of my point.
Down on the goal line and in those short yardage situationals, yeah, that's something they're going to pay attention to. But I also think you're talking about a team that is dead last in the league in man coverage rate. They only run man coverage 6% of the time, and it's basically only in those situations. Now, again, situational football is a huge thing, but they just don't rep out any man coverage at all. It's Matt Eberflus's defense. He plays more zone than anybody in the league. So I think in those situationals, you're going to continue to see teams are going to attack that. They're going to look into that and go, hey,
right,
if we split out the X one-on-one out here, this is how they're going to play it. We've got it all day. I mean, yes, it seems like it should be an obvious thing, but that is also why the Cowboys are giving up 30-something points a game because of fundamental things like that and because of just the structure of their defenses. Obviously, there is a lack of talent throughout their defense. There is, but it's also a lack of talent is going to come with a lack of execution, and that's how you end up with a team that has at least a bottom 5 defense, if not, though I believe up to this point, actually, they've given up the second most points in the NFL, strangely, behind the Baltimore Ravens, which we'll get to later. But it's little things like that stack up over the course of games and then stack up across week to week. That's why they're one of the worst defenses in football.
In the first game that we had on Sunday, the international game in Dublin, the Pittsburgh Steelers took down the Minnesota Vikings 20. Well, I should say held on because Vikings were kind of making an effort there at the end of that game. But Steelers hang on 24-21 to win this one. The top 5 graded players for the Pittsburgh Steelers, number one, of course, it's got to be DK Metcalf, who was an absolute animal in the first half of that game and really set the tone for them. 91.1 was his overall grade. Cornerback James Pierre with a 85.2. Running back Kenneth Gainwell, who was just fantastic in this game as well. Just such a great complimentary piece, and Steelers were finally able to really get something going on the ground, which is great to see. 85.0 grade for him. Safety Deshaun Elliott with a 79.5, and then offensive guard Mason McCormick with a 79.3. Aaron Rodgers in this one, a 60.6. Not a high difficulty day for him. A lot of yards after the catch for his guys, but set him up pretty well to be able to do that, and that's what got to help get them the win. On Minnesota's side of things, defensive tackle Jalen Redmond with a 77.0 at the top of the list. Wide receiver Justin Jefferson a 75.1. Running back Xavier Scott with a 73.7. Edge rusher John Grenard a 72.4. And then cornerback Byron Murphy Jr. a 68.9. Quarterback Carson Wentz in this one, 56.4. Had a couple of mistakes, obviously some throws that he would have liked to have back that unfortunately for their side of things went into why this game turned out the way that it did. But your thoughts here? Stat that told the story.
I think for me, for the Steelers, because this is offensively, I think, a little more ideal than the first 3 weeks, is Aaron Rodgers, look, he's going to be conservative. The dig throw to Metcalf, and Metcalf taking off for 80 yards after the catch was obviously the biggest play of the game. Yep. But they were able to balance this thing out with their run game, finally, and it took them 4 games to get into it. And Jaylen Warren was out, which makes this even more impressive, this performance. Now, is it a world-beating performance by some team standards, say Detroit or Philadelphia or somebody like that? No, but compared to what we'd seen in the first 3 games from the Steelers, this was a really nice performance. 74.3 rushing grade, 29 carries, 131 yards, 4.5 yards a carry, 4 explosives. All of these were season highs, and you could feel, especially in the second half of this game, that the Steelers' offensive line on the interior especially was feeling good about their matchup against a banged-up Vikings front 7. Andrew Van Ginkel's out off the edge, Blake Cashman's out at linebacker, and this group of defensive tackles is leaned more towards the pass rush than they are in run defense. Now, Jalen Redmond's obviously pretty good, but when you're talking about guys like Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, you can attack those guys if you can execute downhill. The Steelers' run game gave them balance, and I'm just going to wrap in my most impressive here. Kenneth Gainwell, like you just mentioned, I think he gave them a spark, especially with Jaylen Warren out. We were expecting Warren to be the spark guy, obviously, in this run game. Maybe Caleb Johnson a little bit. He's in the doghouse a little bit for the kick return a couple weeks ago, but Gainwell was really good. 7 forced missed tackles. 78 of his 99 rushing yards came after contact. I thought that when he needed to bounce off tackle, he did it well. 2 touchdowns, 6 first downs. He just kept the chains moving, especially when you get a lead and you get into the second half of these games with a big lead. You got to be able to run the football, and Gainwell was really the biggest reason that they could do that. And also, Trev, I'm getting it here, 19 carries in this game for Gainwell. He hadn't had 19 carries in a game since his 2019 college season at Memphis.
Wow.
Week 10 of the 2019 college season was the last time Kenneth Gainwell got 19 carries in a game. So obviously he was feeling fresh, and he ran really, really well. Him, and especially that interior, that offensive line, they were a big reason the Steelers won this game.
Yeah, I think the Steelers, they played better up front on the defensive side of football, and they played better running the football on the offensive side of things. And I think those were the takeaways that we have for the Steelers in this one. I don't think it was that different than what they had been in the first couple of weeks, to be honest with you, but the Steelers and a Mike Tomlin coach team has always been this way. If you make mistakes, they're probably going to beat you. Just like somehow, some way, the game script is going to go a certain way where if you make more mistakes than they do, there's not a team in the league that feels like they capitalize on that more than the Pittsburgh Steelers do, which is incredible, obviously, because somebody's got to win that turnover battle every single week. And if Aaron Rodgers, I think we're going to sit here and we go, okay, well, 152 of his 200 passing yards, 199 passing yards came after the catch, right? They didn't ask Aaron Rodgers once again to do a lot. But if he doesn't turn the ball over, that's kind of what they need from him to do. They're just trying to win that turnover battle. So Steelers are sitting here at 3-1, and it's impressive. Now, on the other side of things, to me, the stat that told the story was the backup offensive lineman for the Minnesota Vikings not holding up their end of the bargain. Now, they're backups for a reason. I get that. But still, Justin Skule at right tackle, 4 pressures in this game. Michael Juergens at center, coming in for Ryan Kelly, 4 pressures in this game. I mean, it was not a cohesive unit. And I'll tell you what I really noticed about this, and this is something that I was a little bit worried about with Jordan Mason, their running back. He is bouncing out everything, it feels like, to the sideline. He does not really trust running through the tackles. Now, Mason is sort of a mid to outside zone runner anyways. That's where he is most comfortable. It feels like that's been where he has been most productive throughout his NFL career. So that part of it isn't that new. But specifically against the Vikings, I'm watching this game. There are plays where it's like even just an inside zone concept where he is looking to bounce it out as soon as he possibly can. And I don't think that he trusts this offensive line for the Vikings. I was really bullish on this Vikings team going into the season, but a big reason why I is because, one, I didn't think that J.J. McCarthy would look, as I don't want to be too harsh in my words here.
Shaky's a good word.
Shaky's a good word. That's a good word. That's not as harsh as other words could be. Shaky, I think, is a good word. Thank you for giving me the assist there. But really, it was the offensive lines and the defensive lines with this team. The additions to both sides of the trenches that I felt really good about. And here we are in this game. They weren't as good in run defense as I thought they were going to be. And they weren't as good up front as I thought they were going to be. And some injuries have gone into that, obviously, but that's been a detracting factor from the Vikings being as good of a team, even with a shaky situation at quarterback, as we have seen play out. So to me, that was a big stat that told the story is how much their offensive line struggled in this one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll start on the defensive side there. Look, you look at their 2 wins, their run defense grade. They had 76.5 and 92.4 against Cincinnati, which they can't run the ball, but Minnesota took care of business. Against Atlanta, it was a 40, and in this game, a 49.5. So you're going to get teams in the future here. When you talk about teams, they got to play the Lions twice. They got to play the Eagles, the Commanders, Seattle, Green Bay twice. I mean, you're going to get teams that are going to look at these 2 games that they've lost against Atlanta and now Pittsburgh and go, hey, we can run right at this team. And we can just control the clock and keep their offense, keep those weapons off the field. The offensive side, and right now there's multiple teams like this, I think the offensive line injuries especially, and just for the Vikings, the injuries are the story in general. I mean, on the defensive side, Andrew Van Ginkel, huge piece. Blake Cashman, you can feel the absence at linebacker of Blake Cashman right now, especially when Kenneth Gainwell was bouncing those runs. Blake Cashman is the guy who's going to run sideline to sideline and make those tackles. But then you look at it, J.J. McCarthy, Aaron Jones, Donovan Jackson, wrist surgery at left guard. Ryan Kelly came out of this game less than halfway through. Brian O'Neill played 11 snaps in this game. 3 starting offensive linemen, your starting quarterback, your starting running back, and 2 big-time defenders already. And that's not even counting anybody else that might come. Right now, the Vikings, they got to find a way to get healthy.
Yeah,
and that's they're going to fall behind in a really darn good division if they can't get healthy. And then I think fundamentally on the defensive side, if they are healthy, they do need to stop the run better because we've seen it in their 2 losses now that they've gotten run all over. Atlanta beat them with a sledgehammer. The Steelers beat them with a sledgehammer, and the Steelers are not known right now as a good running team. Right. Atlanta's one thing; they got a great offensive line. They got Bijan and Algier, all of that.
Well, Atlanta's offensive line has struggled too, and it's just so far through this season.
But we know they're still a threat to run the ball.
They're capable.
You get behind Chris Lindstrom, you can run the ball. This Steelers team is not a good running football team. And yet they came in here and they looked like one in this game. I think Minnesota does have a lot of concerns in the trenches, both with health and execution.
I would agree. Vikings secondary, also something that was tough. 148 receiving yards of the 200 passing yards came after the catch. Obviously, that's something that, Aaron Rodgers is recognizing things very quickly. He's getting the ball in the hands of these guys in rhythm. He's giving them space to be able to run after the catch. But it's also where are the dudes to tackle him, right? How is he so open? How is there not a receiver near him? And DK Metcalf's kind of a different beast of just how you're covering him. And when he gets a straight line and when he gets some open grass, he can really cover a ton of it. But I thought the Vikings secondary was underwhelming in this one. My most impressive was TJ Watt, 8 pressures, 17.5% passer win percentage, and then the interception as well, which felt like it was just another high IQ TJ Watt play that we've seen him make so many times throughout his career. So giving him a shout out there. Anything else before we move on to the next game?
I think to the point on Rodgers, this was a game where, yes, he didn't grade very highly again, but when you look at this game compared to how when the Jets played the Vikings last year, it looked last year like he couldn't really see what Brian Flores was trying to do to him. This year, the vision looked a lot better, and it felt like whether Flores went man or zone on any given play, Rodgers knew what was coming this time, and it was at least much more decisive than he was last year when he was with the Jets playing the same team.
That's why you bring him in, for literally exactly what you just said there. So they're getting the return that they wanted from him. Chargers and the Giants. Giants win this game 21-18 here. The top 5 graded players for the New York Giants. Cornerback Andrew Phillips at the very top of the list with a 92.3. Rookie edge rusher Abdul Carter, a 90.2. Edge rusher Brian Burns, an 83.0. Defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence, who was robbed, I say, of that interception for a touchdown that he could have had. Justin Herbert, I said this on Twitter, robbed us of a special moment there. I know. Everybody calm down. I know he was doing what he
Between that and Caden Proctor, what a weekend.
I know.
What a weekend we could have had.
For the big fellas potentially getting in the end zone. Linebacker Darius Muasau with a 78.7 rounded out there. And then Jackson Dart, 48.9. Obviously not great just overall when you're grading his quarterback play, but very clearly you felt the energy from this team. And the game plan from this team be different, and we'll break that down a little bit more in a second. On the Chargers side of things, their running back, Omarion Hampton, at the top of their list with a 79.7. Defensive tackle Tahir Tart with a 79.5. Defensive tackle Jamari Caldwell with a 74.4. Edge rusher Tuli Tuipulotu with a 72.2. Cornerback Cam Hart a 71.8. And then Justin Herbert a 65.1 in this one. Stat that told the story. Dalton, what do we got?
So the Giants are one of these teams we know with all the talent, the defensive line. You saw 3 of the guys in the top 5 there that you need your offensive line healthy and executing at a very, very high level if you want to beat this team. Even if it's a bad team, there's some bad teams in the NFL with some great defensive line. You think about the Giants, you think about the Browns, right? If you're not up to snuff against a team like the Browns right now, you're going to have a problem with their defense, with the defensive lines. And I think for the Chargers right now, what you saw in this game, these offensive line injuries, it's racking up for them too, right? Rashawn Slater's already out for the season. We knew that. Joe Alt looks like he got a high ankle sprain in this game. He left on a cart. Mekhi Becton was already out for this game. He was inactive. Bradley Bozeman at center is playing through a back injury, and I imagine you don't want to be playing through a back injury when you have to block Dexter Lawrence any given week. So you look at this offensive line, and it adds up to, for the Chargers, a 27.2 pass blocking grade. Their offense, and credit to Omarion Hampton, the Chargers' highest graded player, for basically fighting through contact and finding some big runs, because it wasn't happening between the tackles either. This Chargers offensive line, in the short term at the very least, is a big time concern, because Justin Herbert looked rushed in this game, and everyone's going to get on him for making mistakes, and this Giants secondary for the first time this year looked like it was functional as well. But I think this Chargers offensive line was the story, and the Giants, their D-line, this is exactly how they try to win games, is that their defensive line is going to dominate you, whether you're overmatched or if they're just better even than your starting unit with Lawrence, with Carter, with Burns, with Thibodeau. It's a monster. And if you're not executing on the offensive line at the highest level, and especially if you're not healthy, you're going to have a problem with this Giants team.
I just going back to sort of what you were saying about Hampton, 85 of his rushing yards came after contact in this game.
Yep.
I mean, he was truly fighting through contact to make it happen, and he had over 100 rushing yards. So it's a good shout out for him of a really great game. I'll tell you the stat that told the story here for me. Giants in the time of possession. 35 minutes is how long they held the ball in this game. They won the time of possession battle, and the reason why they did that is because they had 32 carries with just their running backs between Devin Singletary and Cam Scadaboo, and then you add another 10 from Jackson Dart. They ran the ball 42 times in this game. The Chargers ran the ball 13 times in this game.
You know what this looked like? It was go back to 2022 with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. That's how the Giants won games all that season.
So this is a perfect way that I kind of want to talk about this with Jackson Dart. So with Dart, obviously the overall grade wasn't great from him, but he wasn't asked to do a lot really as a passer, and I think it's the complementary part of who he was as an athlete. And Brian Daboll talked about that after the game. He talked about the athleticism, the toughness that Jackson Dart has. Obviously, he gets into the end zone on their first drive of the game, so you see what they're going to do there. And it's honestly why I had picked the Giants as an upset team when we were going through our preview last week, is because there is something to, as long as a rookie quarterback isn't just scared for his life out there, there is truly something to you not having any tape on this player. Because what you see in the preseason, I mean, a lot of that is a lot of that is just preseason football anyways. You're just trying to get this kid out there to get any sort of experience you can and asking him to do a variety of different things. That's not necessarily what you're going to ask him to do in the regular season when his time comes. So there was no tape on Jackson Dart. And the way that the Giants operated their offense with him at quarterback was so much quicker. It had so much more tempo, and it involved so much more of a multi-dimensional rushing threat than the Chargers had seen the Giants do at any point to this season with Russell Wilson, and I think that's what truly caught them off guard. Now, the Chargers still had their blunders, and obviously you talk about, okay, the offensive line was as good as it needed to be. My most disappointing in this one's Ladd McConkey, 1 catch, 11 yards, had 2 drop passes, had 6 targets, so he barely even comes down with most of the targets that he got today. So there are things that were working against the Chargers. But I think something else that was working against them is they just did not have any sort of tape or idea of what the offense was going to look like with Jackson Dart out there. My worry about this moving forward isn't that it can't continue to look good, because I actually do think that it can. You talked about that season in 2022 when this was sort of the offensive design with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. It's the fact that Dart already a little bit banged up after this game, looked like he was dealing with a hamstring injury as the game was going on. We'll see sort of what his injury designation is, because a hamstring injury is kind of tricky. You're also asking him to continue to carry the ball. I mean, Daniel Jones, I'm not saying that Jackson Dart's not tough, but Daniel Jones is a tough son of a gun. I mean, when he would get hit, he would just get back up. That's how he was built. That's how his frame is, and that's what adds to him being a rushing threat is you have that durability from him as well. But even he went through injuries during his time in Brian Daboll's offense. So how sustainable is it? Right? That's my question with Jackson Dart. Not that can it work. I think it can work. It's just a matter of you're putting a lot of punishment on your quarterback. And that's just it's a fine line to walk when you're trying to do what Brian Daboll's trying to do.
And sustainability is a great question to ask when it comes to that, because even that 2022 season, I remember that Giants team ending the regular season as overall the 4th lowest graded team in our system, yet they made the playoffs and then won a playoff game after that. But they were basically the ultimate candidate the next season for a big-time regression, because that's not sustainable. And the problem now is they need to find a way to make it sustainable short term in the context of Malik Neighbors tearing his ACL now. And your passing game just lost by far its best player, and you're not going to be very explosive through the air now without Neighbors. That's just a fact. And I know obviously you brought in the quarterbacks you did as vertical passers, but the idea was to get the ball to Malik Neighbors more often. So it's just awful to see that injury for such a superstar player like him, but this is what Giants games on offense are going to look like now. A lot of Dart, a lot of Scattaboo, a lot of Singletary, and you're right. Ideally, in this situation, it's going to look more like 2022, but it's going to be ugly, and they're going to try to keep games close to the vest and try to win them just like this.
My most impressive in this game, because I already kind of talked about my most disappointing in Ladd McConkey, my most impressive was Abdul Carter. 9 total pressures in this game, 20% passer win percentage, and there are times when you could tell, okay, like he's still getting down exactly where he needs to be, exactly when to take off for the quarterback, but man, when he turns on the green light and he pins his ears back, as they say, it looks like Micah Parsons. Like, I don't know what to tell you, right? I mean, it's the easy, some people would call it lazy comparison with him coming from the same school, playing the same position, wearing the same number, all that kinds of stuff. He looks like he's a little bit lighter of a version of what Micah Parsons is. And he looked like that in this game with how they were having him rush from the outside, stunting in the inside to the A and the B gap. Like, they just had him all over the place, and how quickly he is able to win and get pressure on the pocket was just so impressive. And I thought it was a great game from Abdul Carter.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, I'll go most disappointing again. Injuries in general, because the Malik Neighbors injury was awful to see. But again, for the Chargers offensive line, I'm really concerned about this. And you really look at the breakdown, even in premium stats here on PFF.com, you can see it here. The breakdown of how this went. Joe Alt at the top playing 8 pass blocking snaps. He looked great. He's Joe Alt, right? But once he got hurt, this really fell apart. You look at, I mentioned Bradley Bozeman playing hurt. Austin DeCulis having to come in at left tackle for Alt, right? Jamari Salyer, already your backup right guard in there for Mekhi Becton, giving up 5 pressures. These are the types of things that can break down in a hurry when you have multiple injuries on the offensive line. So you look at 3 of the primary offensive linemen, take out all, put in the unit that played most of this game. 3 of those guys graded under a 30 in pass protection. And I know, again, the Giants have one of the most talented defensive lines in the whole league, but this is going to be an issue moving forward, especially if Alt is out with a high ankle sprain for any amount of time. I don't care who you're playing. That unit is suddenly the biggest weakness on this Charger team, and one that sadly going into the year before Rashawn Slater's injury, you thought could be one of the 2 or 3 biggest strengths on this whole team. And you look, teams so often, they're so dependent on just, man, we got to hope our offensive line's healthy and we're going to be really good. The Chargers are going to be battling here for at least the next few weeks, especially if Joe Alt is out.
Every single time I talk about the Buccaneers Super Bowl in any way, and people just talk about like the team that it was, and obviously Tom Brady, the thing that people do not talk about the most of that Super Bowl team is that offensive line had the gift of health. And all of them played together for almost the entire season, all of those guys. So they had the chemistry, they had the availability, everything. It was all there. They were so ready for that Super Bowl with all of those guys playing healthy. And so it is such an underrated part of being a great team is you have to get lucky with injuries. You have to. At the key positions, and offensive line is certainly one of those positions. You guys want to see all the premium stats for yourself, like we said at the top of the show. PFF NFL Show 25 gets you 25% off a PFF Plus subscription, so you can see that page and so much more, explore all the premium stats and all that great stuff. Most impressive for you?
On the other side of your Ladd McConkey matchup, Andrew Phillips in the slot was just fantastic for the Giants. And again, the Giants secondary, this was by far their best game played of the season, but a 91.8 coverage grade for Phillips. 7 targets, only 2 catches allowed for 10 yards, 3 forced incompletions, the interception and the big return of his own that set up the Giants for a touchdown. So the Giants defense, it was just a great effort all the way around. And Phillips in the slot, I mean, he was fantastic last year. He was one of the best rookie corners in football last year, and just nobody talked about him because he was on the Giants. This kid is really good, and he shut down McConkey in the slot especially.
Yeah, no, he's a very talented player. There's no doubt about it. I think he is a chess piece type of secondary player. He can play inside and out, but anybody who has that kind of success in the slot against a really good player like McConkey. I know it wasn't McConkey's best day, but man, it was one of Andrew Phillips, and I think that's a reason why we talk about it in the way that we are. Buccaneers and the Eagles. The Eagles win this game 31-25. I don't want to say hang on. Hang on's a little insulting for how they played in the first half because they established that lead well. So I don't want to take anything away from the Eagles. But I thought this was a really good game. This is 2 of the best teams in the NFL, and I thought it played out that way down in Tampa. Top 5 graded players that we had for the Philadelphia Eagles in this one at the top of the list. Newcomer, edge rushers, Zadarius Smith with a 90.7. Cornerback Quinyon Mitchell, a 79.9. Defensive tackle Moro Ojomo with an 86.6. Offensive tackle Jordan Mailata, an 84.2. Cornerback Cooper DeJean with an 80.0. And then Jalen Hurts in this one, a 51.3. On Tampa's side of things, their rookie cornerback, Jacob Parrish, at the top of the list with an 89.7. Safety Tyke Smith, an 85.8. Defensive tackle Vita Vea, a 76.7. Cornerback Zion McCollum, a 76.6. And then running back Bucky Irving, a 69.6. Baker Mayfield in this game, a 60.4. Stat that told the story, Dalton.
I tell you what, and I know the score is a lot closer than a lot of this game went because of 2 huge plays, one from Emeka Egbuka and one from Bucky Irving. But the Bucs as a team, they're struggling right now offensively, in part obviously a lot because of the injuries. Mike Evans out, the offensive line injuries, especially the right side of the offensive line now. Good to see Tristan Wirfs back on the field, but a 50.7 offensive grade as a team. That is the Bucs' lowest offensive grade since week 1 of 2015. Jameis Winston's first start in the NFL when they got
through the pick 6 the Titans?
Yeah, when they got blown out by Marcus Mariota and the Titans. And ironically, Mariota this week, highest graded quarterback in the NFL so far. So it was their worst offensive grade in over 10 years since Jameis Winston's
I would not have thought this. I mean, I know they struggled in this game, but I didn't watch this game and think like, wow, this is the worst offensive performance they've had in 10 years.
Well, here's some things. Okay, 1, 2 more turnover-worthy plays from Baker Mayfield. And actually, the final interception to Jahad Campbell, we didn't have that because that ball was tipped, although I'll be honest with you, even if it wasn't, Campbell might have picked that ball off anyway. Mm-hmm. So that ball was tipped, but there was 2 other turnover-worthy plays. Baker's got 9 now on the season, second most in the NFL. The Bucky Irving fumble is obviously plenty.
Was
the
fair.
wrist down? Was it not?
Right.
It also eventually turned into an Eagles touchdown because it stood. That was a weird one. Outside of the 2 big touchdowns from Irving and Ibuka, only 4.2 yards per play. They really did struggle outside of 2 really basically blown coverages by the Eagles. They struggled to manufacture offense in this game. Outside, because I think those are the only 2 touchdowns the Bucs scored in this game, right? So, I mean, you have that part where it was just hard for them to manufacture offense. And then, look, it just got to be said, now injuries are a big part of it. They're not going to have Cody Mauch the rest of the year. They're waiting on Luke Gedeke to get back, but that's going to be a while. The Bucs have the lowest graded offensive line in the NFL so far. And everything's getting shuffled, and they're going to need a few weeks to get their feet back under them with Graham Barton moving back to center, Ben Bredesen back at left guard, Tristan Wirfs back in, then eventually you get Gedeke back. They have ridden out the storm. This was the reason I picked the Eagles to win this game. I just thought this was the game against this team that it was going to be too much. And with Mike Evans out, Chris Godwin in his first game back didn't look completely 100% right yet, right?
No,
I mean, Ibuka and Irving were trying to carry this team to whatever points they could, and they led them as far as they could go. But this team, look, the Bucs have already, early season, when you look at the first month of the season, they've done the job. They went 3-1. They've battled through the injuries. They're getting guys back slowly. They've gotten Godwin and Wirfs back now. I just think this was a game where, look, the Eagles, first of all, are just going to find magic voodoo ways to win right now because they won this game without completing a pass in the second half.
Yeah,
and
0 for 8.
And even if you're going to beat them, same thing as an entire team. You got to be 90 to 95% healthy and really executing at a very high level. The Bucs just aren't there yet. If these 2 teams played even in the playoffs or in week 16 or 17, and the Bucs were healthy, you're going to get a darn good football game all the way through, but it's just too much for the Bucs to deal with, right? It's too much adversity right now. They've got to, especially the offensive line, get Wirfs and those guys on the left side in a rhythm, eventually get Gedeke back. It's going to look a lot better later, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, they lost this game by 6 points.
The fact that they battled back at all is big time. I mean, that's just, again, Baker Mayfield's never going to die. I mean,
right.
It's just, that's what's going to happen here.
They lost this game by 6 points. They had a blocked punt at the beginning of the game that went for an Eagles touchdown.
Right.
You're not gonna beat the Eagles if you spot them 7 points. Like that's just. I mean, who's gonna beat Philly if you say, hey, this game starts off 7-0? Because that's essentially what happened.
I mean, they spotted them 21. It was 24-3.
No, I know, but like what you're talking about, how the game played further was sort of just the momentum of the game, right? In the first half, hats off to Jalen Hurts and just how the Eagles coaching staff was ready for the Buccaneers and what they wanted to do. Jalen Hurts it was a tale of 2 halves for him. 85.3 passing grade for him in the first and second quarters. He was 15 for 16, had 130 passing yards, a big-time throw, and no turnover-worthy plays. You go to the second half, you mentioned it. They didn't complete a pass. Jalen Hurts was 0 for 8, 33.7. Whatever the Buccaneers were doing and what Todd Bowles did completely adjusted and had the Eagles fooled. They had a turnover-worthy play and no big-time throws there in the second half, and that was sort of the chess match of the game. So the game had the regular ebbs and flows, and yeah, obviously the Bucs got a couple of big plays, but that is football as well. It was the special teams part, which to me is the stat that told the story. That's why I'm sort of talking about it like this. Over the last 3 weeks, the Bucs have now had a blocked punt against the Texans, a field goal blocked and returned for a touchdown against the Jets, and a punt blocked for a touchdown that got returned against the Eagles. Cannot happen. Can't happen.
Across the league, I don't think we've ever seen more.
I mean, we're having a lot of special teams blunders, but these are 3 backbreakers in a row from the Buccaneers. Normally we talk, winning the turnover battle. We talk about turnovers. All of that is obviously very important. If you give up a catastrophic special teams play, a lot of times that's even more. That goes into a win or loss even more than sometimes turnovers do. Like that is a total swing play, and the Buccaneers have been on the wrong end of 3 of those in 3 consecutive weeks. It has to get fixed for this team. Obviously, the offense, we would love for it to be more consistent, but Baker Mayfield's a little bit of a flamethrower guy anyways. You're going to have to take the good with the bad, and I think that certainly the Bucs are willing to do that. What you cannot take is the special teams blunders that this team has had. You will not continue to win football games if you are giving up this bad of special teams play. So that, to me, is the stat that told the story, is the early blocked punt, which started this game off 7-0 very quickly. It ends up being a 6-point game. These teams were dead even basically the rest of the game. However it went, I mean, you could talk about, okay, this went well, this didn't go well. That's football. But having a blocked punt for a touchdown, you're supposed to not have that at all. And unfortunately, the Bucs did. Well, unfortunately for the Bucs, fortunately for the Eagles.
We are seeing it. It feels like more than ever these first few weeks. There's another game here that was decided on a special teams play. That these games, I don't know what it is. It's just they're not being these plays aren't being executed very well. All the blocked field goals we've seen, the blocked punts now. We've had a couple returns, even punt returns the last couple weeks. I mean, it's getting fun on special teams, and all the spotlight is on the kick returns and all the rules and more returns, high return rates that go with that. But it's every phase of special teams right now that's making a difference in these games.
Most impressive, most disappointing?
I thought the best player on the field was Quinyon Mitchell. I know we've talked a lot about Cooper DeJean on this show, but on the outside, he was just unbelievable. 88.9 coverage grade. 9 targets.
He playing with fire getting in Baker Mayfield's face.
Was he, though?
Yeah, I mean,
just got to match the energy, you know?
Yeah, but, C.J. Gardner-Johnson thought that was a good idea.
Well, they ain't cutting Quinyon Mitchell. I can tell you that.
Well, I'm not saying he's going to get cut. I'm saying don't give Baker a reason to get to go to that Randy Orton place in his head.
Baker finds his own reasons.
I guess so.
He was born with
Quinyon could have said, "Hey man, good play." Oh, it wasn't a great play. It wasn't a great play.
Yeah,
that'd be Baker.
Some guys just find a way to be offended.
It's true.
You need 1 or 2 guys like that on your football team. But think about it like this: he allowed 2 catches for 6 yards. He had 5 forced incompletions. Just ridiculous stuff on the outside from Mitchell. No, I mean, the Eagles, they just have so many studs in the secondary, right? But when you look at Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, who graded very highly in this game also, I just thought Mitchell was the best player on the field. Absolutely. He was terrific on the outside.
Both those corners, I felt like.
They're 2 of the best corners. They're 2 of, the 10 best corners in football, I think. They're just ridiculous. And then again, to have drafted them both back-to-back. We'll always go back to that. Yeah.
8 and 9 on the PFF big board. I tried to tell them.
And they got him at 24 and 40 or something, whatever it was.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact draft spots, but it was something around that range.
Just silly. I mean, really, they're the 2 biggest. They were 2 of the biggest difference makers in the Super Bowl run last year, and they were both fantastic here in this game.
Eagles run game, disappointed by that. Barkley 2.3 yards per attempt average. I understand that the game was kind of going a different way, but Barkley not being as explosive as he was last year, and I think just the run game in general for the Eagles is part of what makes me feel as though their margin for error is lower this year than it has been in years past, but specifically last year when they were on their Super Bowl run. I just feel like they need more explosiveness out of the run game. Is it still efficient? Of course it is. I also thought that the tush-push fake, diabolical, and that was coming. That was obviously coming because that's the scary part about the tush push, right? Is that it's so unstoppable that you now have to truly sell out all 11 players on defense just to stop what it's intended for. Now we're just pitching it to the outside with Barkley, and he's just going to walk it in because it's easy. Now we're truly in it's over for the rest of the league category when we talk about the tush push with the Eagles, now that they're not afraid to do some fakes like that.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, if there's one thing I would worry about with Barkley, it's just the sheer number of touches he got last year, regular season and postseason. Let's see, 436 plus I think it was 46 receptions. You're talking about over 480 touches last year. And he's second in the league in carries right now, and he's sitting just over 3 yards a carry through 4 games. I would be a little worried about that, just because there's been a history of backs that get 400-plus touches in the past that come out the next year, and they're not quite the same, especially now this team coming off a Super Bowl run that was just in February. You do wonder a little bit if the explosiveness is there for Saquon the same way it was last year.
Are we worried about A.J. Brown?
No, I'm worried about just the Eagles. But the Eagles were like this last year, too. The Eagles' passing game in general, they don't consistently execute. They didn't last year.
Right.
Before the NFC title game,
right,
Jalen Hurts was 30th in the NFL in passing grade last year. Mm-hmm. And then he had 2 great games.
And then he had
2 great games, and everyone forgot about it because
right.
The Commanders can't play defense, and the Chiefs were overmatched. Great.
Yeah.
This was Jalen Hurts in last year's regular season. I'm not worried about AJ. I mean, if you're worried about cryptic tweets and all that nonsense, I don't usually get into that. But
that's really what I'm talking about. Is are we worried about his lack of production? Because he got 9 targets in this game, caught 2 of them for 7 yards.
But it's also the passing game. This was like this under Kellen Moore. It's the least creative passing game in football.
I'm not worried about A.J. Brown as a talent at all. I think he's one of the most talented wide receivers in the game. I just don't feel like they're I don't know, like giving him the jump ball chances that he wants. And like I wonder if that becomes an issue for this team moving forward. They're 4-0, so how much of an issue can it be? But if they start to go on a little bit of a slide here, and
there's going to come a point if they can't find the run game, like you mentioned, that they're going to have to open it up some. And
right.
AJ and Devontae Smith are two of their best players, and they're gonna have to figure. They've been waiting for the moments where they have to do that, like last week against the Rams. In this game, they didn't have to. Now, do you want to go an entire half without completing a pass? No. But I think the bigger concern is, and it's not any different than I had last year, I think the biggest weakness on this team, if there is any, is just their lack of consistency and execution in the passing game as a whole. That's Jalen, that's AJ, that's the scheme. It's a little bit of everything.
Anything else before we move on to the next game?
All good.
Good. All right. Before we talk about the next one, Game Time, folks, is the best place to score tickets for NFL or college football games. Game Time is hands down the easiest way that we have found to get sports tickets. My goodness. Speaking of college, what a slate we had in college this past weekend. And it felt like the Penn State-Oregon game and the Alabama-Georgia game, it like within 5 minutes of real time, both of those games had thrilling ends to them. And it's just, you see the atmosphere and the environment and just these night games. It's just, it is phenomenal. If you guys haven't experienced it, you got to figure out a way to get to one. And Game Time is a great way to do that. When you look at the tickets through Game Time, the fees, they're included. So you know what the total for the ticket is up front. There's no surprise fees at checkout, nothing like that. You can save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats for you. It gives you a panoramic view of the seats in the app before you end up buying them. They've got a price guarantee. They'll credit you 110% of the difference if you can find a lower ticketed price somewhere else. I mean, this is the place to get tickets. Download the Game Time app. Use the promo code PFF20 for $20 off your first purchase. That's Game Time. Amazing deals, no hassles. All right, next game for us here. Commanders and Falcons. Falcons win this game. High-scoring affair, 34-27. Top 5 graded players that we had for the Atlanta Falcons. Boy, just get shut out by the Panthers and then just a shootout with the Commanders next week. Falcons are a funny team. Top of the list for them, wide receiver Drake London, 91.3. Edge rusher Jalen Walker, good to see him that high on the list with an 86.2. Linebacker Divine Diablo with an 80.4. Linebacker Caden Ellis, a 79.7. And the defensive tackle David Onyemata, a 78.8. Quarterback Michael Penix in this one with an 84.4. He was a flamethrower. Looked like Washington Huskies version of Michael Penix in this one. Good to see him bounce back there. On Washington side of things, their offensive tackle Laramie Tunsil at the top of the list with an 80.8. Wide receiver Jalen Lane, a 76.9. Wide receiver Deebo Samuel, a 76.1. Linebacker Bobby Wagner, a 72.0, and then defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw, a 66.6. Quarterback Marcus Mariota playing a little bit of football out here, Dalton. 90.4.
Wasn't his fault.
He only played 2 games, but every single time I'm looking up a quarterback stat, I kind of have to filter his snaps out because he's at the top of the list in passing grade under pressure, all this kinds of stuff, but he has got a smaller sample size, so normally I'm trying to look up, how a quarterback is playing versus guys who have started all 4 games, but Marcus Mariota is near the top of the list. But what's your stat that told the story here from either team?
All right, this is funky from the Falcons' angle because we've been digging in a lot of their offense and the schemes and all of that right now. They didn't necessarily get under center maybe like we wanted to. They kind of dug their heels in and still ran a lot of their offense from the pistol, but of all the guys they have Michael Penix, they got a pretty good offensive line, Drake London, Bijan, all of that. You know the guy I want to talk about? I want to talk about Charlie Werner.
Wow.
All right? We're going to talk about Charlie Werner. And we're going to talk about the Falcons with their offense. When their offense looks the best, they're in 12 personnel. Kyle Pitts and Charlie Werner, 2 tight ends. 1 back, 2 tight ends, right? And Pitts, obviously, he's a tight end kind of nominally, but not really, right? Because he doesn't block much, and he's really a big receiver, right? I mean, I know Gator great, but he's really your big third receiver. So it's kind of this, it's 12 personnel, but it's kind of big 11 because it's Kyle Pitts. But when Charlie Werner is on the field and the different ways that they use him, 1, obviously, is a really good run blocker, and he's been that since his days in San Francisco. 2, you see alignments in this game now more often with Bijan Robinson out at receiver. Now, does that mean the Falcons are empty all the time? No, that's not what that means. Why? So the one big 69-yard catch wheeling out of the backfield. Sure, Robinson, that was his biggest play of the game. But his other 3 catches were all lined up out at receiver. Why can they do that? Because now Charlie Werner lines up in that set as the running back. So you have 12 personnel, but you've got Bijan lined up out somewhere. You've got Kyle Pitts lined up out somewhere. And now you've got a 6-man protection for Michael Penix. And let me just get you some splits on Charlie Werner and this 12 personnel, what's going on here. In their 2 wins, Charlie Werner's played 100 snaps, all right?
Okay.
In their 2 losses, he's played 46. When they're in 12 personnel, the Falcons have the 7th best offensive grade in the league. When they're in anything else, 15th. When he's on the field, 75.3 offensive grade. When he's off the field, 65.8. When he comes off the field, now we're getting rid of tendencies here, right? We're going to break this offense in a little bit. I think it really comes down to, because Kyle Pitts is not your true 2-way tight end that can block George Kittle, Tyler Warren, a guy like that. You're really kind of sort of in 11, and you need Charlie Werner as that guy in the box that gives you that blocking help. And you can see when he's on the field, the offense is less predictable, and they can run the ball with him in there, and they can have that 6-man protection. And the weapon that Bijan Robinson can be on the outside, because you don't have to waste him in pass protection. Now you have at least 4 big-time weapons when you talk about London, Mooney, Pitts, Robinson, that are a real problem for defenses. I think the leaning more into 12 personnel, and I know, look, Charlie Werner's grades aren't going to blow you away, and he's not going to be one of the household names in football, but when he's on the field and they have a real tight end out there, and I get Kyle Pitts in position labels and all of that, when they have a real tight end out there, it just looks better and it's more efficient, and they have a 2-way go in their offense. You have to find a way in this offense to break the tells. That's going to be the one way to do it, is Werner playing more often, because when he's done it, those are the 2 games they've won. How do you like that for a tight end too?
Finding a stat that told the story around Charlie Werner is some sicko stuff.
You like that? You like that rant on a tight end too, right there?
That's an elite pull. I'm just sitting back. Absolute cinema.
This is what I do when I get up at 6 a.m. on Mondays.
That's what that felt like. I love it. But you were the first to point out, was it last week where you talked about the Falcons tipping their pitches, or maybe it was the week before?
Yes.
Just like, when they're in shotgun, they're passing. When they're under center, they're running. Like, you are keying in, or you are allowing the defense to key in on exactly what you're doing. And so you've been finding some really good Falcon stats that I'd love to hear from Charlie Werner. And obviously this is something that we're going to have to pay more attention to, is how often they go into 12 personnel and how much they lean into that moving forward. The stat that told the story for me on the Commander side of things, 42.9 coverage grade. Last in the league this week. I mean, they have been dead last or in the bottom 3 of coverage almost every single week of the season. You look at the 4 weeks that they have had. 3 out of the 4 weeks, they've given up more than 285 passing yards in 3 out of 4 games that they have played. Their week 1 game, they had a 58.6 overall coverage grade. Week 2 against the Packers, a 29.8. Week 3 against the Raiders, a 51.2. And then this week against the Falcons, a 39.5. They have yet to have a single game this season where they have a coverage grade above 60. You're destined to lose at that point. And here's, I'm getting worried about the Commanders. And again, on the Stock Exchange show, where we do some of the power rankings, we do power rankings, but we also do a little bit of a buy or sell versus the over-under win total that they currently have. Commanders are 2-2, and their over-under win total is 9.5. They obviously don't have Jaden Daniels out there, but like you said, when we were highlighting Marcus Mariota, it ain't like quarterbacks that big of a difference for them right now. The rest of their roster is letting them down, specifically on the defensive side of the ball, which that was, outside of Daniels being unbelievable as a rookie, that to me was the most impressive part of last season, is what Dan Quinn was able to do with that defense the way that we looked at it on paper before the season, right? How well that group was able to play, at least sporadically throughout the season, to play really well together. This year, the Commanders, especially in the secondary and just their coverage units in general, feels more like what we thought they were going to be last year. And they weren't. They were better. This year, it feels like they are that version that we thought they were going to be heading into 2024. So they've been tough this year, and it's hard for me to. I mean, like they're giving Trey most of the snaps. You know, they're playing Mike Sanders still. They don't really have anybody else other than Marshawn Lattimore to go to. Like they're just really struggling in coverage. So Jaden Daniels, yeah, he could come back, and maybe Jaden just puts this team on his shoulders entirely. But they don't have a great pass rush. Their linebackers, for as physical as these dudes are, Bobby Wagner's got a high football IQ, but he's just not as fast as he used to be. Frankie Louvu is much more of a physical linebacker than he is necessarily a coverage linebacker. And then the guys in the secondary, the corners and the safeties, really aren't playing well together, and they're giving up a ton of passing yards. That's the stuff that's hard for me to say, yeah, this team's going to win more than 9.5 games. And so on a 9.5 over-under line right now for the Commanders, I'd be selling that. I think at this point in time, until their defense totally swings in a much more favorable direction, I'm going to be worried about this team every single week.
Yeah, I mean, I find it interesting that their run defense is a lot better this year because they've gotten better on the defensive line, especially Javon Kinlaw is playing well, and we know Wagner and Louvu can play. They're 4th in the league in run defense grade. Both last year and this year, they were 15th in pass rush grade. But last year in coverage grade, 30th, because it got a lot worse down the stretch and into the playoffs, and they're dead last this year. The cornerbacks, for me, that's my most disappointing part of this game, is the idea was, all right, healthy Marshawn Lattimore. Trey Amos comes in. We got a steal in the second round. Sainer Still's back in the slot. That's his natural position, right? None of it's working out there at corner right now. And Lattimore especially, what we've seen so far, and I know he's a veteran. They traded for him. They gave a third-round pick for him. We're getting to a point where I'm not sure he's playable. You might have to take him off.
I know.
You might have to take him off the field.
That's how it feels at this point.
Because Sainer Still and Amos, they're young guys. You got to leave them out there, and they're going to play hard. And Amos has right around a 60 coverage grade. It needs to be better, but he's a rookie. Lattimore, to me, I'm not sure how much longer you can keep running him out there. We've just seen him get shredded repeatedly this year. And, I mean, Drake London went crazy in this game. I have Drake London down as my most impressive. He went crazy in this game. He had a 91 receiving grade, 8 catches for 110 and a touchdown. The Commanders, it's so hard to win shootouts every week, and they're going to be in shootouts. It's honestly not that different from the Cowboys. They're going to be in shootouts every single week. Now, the Commanders' run defense is better than the Cowboys. They have Bobby Wagner and those guys right up front, so it's a better chance of not just losing complete control of the game on the ground. But this is also why when we talk about Washington's run game being so important to their success, not just the balance in their offense, but keeping this darn secondary off the field is a big-time asset for them. So they got to be better somehow. This is a problem that lingered over from last year, and I thought this cornerback group, this scenarios where this could have been better, through 4 weeks, it's definitely not.
Most impressive for me was the Falcons in the red zone, 4 for 6 in this one when it came to converting these red zone trips to touchdowns. It's going to be key for them because I think the Falcons' defense is just going to be very up and down. I've said that before here on this show. I feel like that's just going to be the theme. When you're leaning on rookies as much as they are, and I know Jalen Walker played really well in this one. Xavier Watts got himself an interception, but like James Pierce Jr. as well. Even the young guys from last year who are still heavily involved into this group, like all of that is just going to manifest in a lot of up and down performances. You're going to get some that are great, and you're going to get some weeks where maybe you are going to have to win in a shootout. But I still think the Falcons at an 8.5 over-under win total feel like a hold for me because I think that that's probably the right number. I think 8's kind of that magic number for this team right now, but they're showing that they can. What I'm most happy about is Michael Penix has a terrible game last week against the Panthers. And I understand it's against the Panthers, so it's always like if you get beat that bad against what is considered a bad football team, the alarms start going off. But like the questions of like, hey, is Michael Penix the guy? Are we going to bench him? What are we going to do? Like that's like we've got to calm down.
This is because people forget because it's his second year. This yesterday was his 7th career start.
You've got to.
And actually,
I wouldn't care if it's his 22nd start. But this is the guy.
To your point, maybe the biggest story actually coming out of this game is he comes out of maybe the worst game he's ever played his life last week.
Right, and he plays so much better.
And he comes back and he plays
looked
fantastic.
like Washington Michael Penix. I just the questions that it felt like Raheem Morris was asked about Michael Penix was it was almost like it felt like media people were like sticking up for Kirk Cousins.
Because your backup's making $50 million a year is why they're doing it.
And I get it, but it was almost like well, you hooked Cousins last year, so are you gonna hook Michael Penix this year? And it's like
we hooked him in week 15.
Like, no, Like, no, that's not going to happen. That's why we drafted this guy where we did, for him to play, to learn, to struggle, to get better. I just thought that was crazy, kind of how I was hearing the quotes about that, about Michael Penix. I mean, no, there's no plans at all to bench him, and there never should have been. And it was great to see him bounce back, because I think he has got one hell of an arm, and he can be a lot of fun to watch moving forward. Commanders' coverage really against Bijan Robinson, I think, was also a big issue. 106 receiving yards for Robinson. Now, he's a great player, but you got to be able to contain him better than that. You can tip your hat to a very talented player, but just like I did in Week 1 against the Buccaneers when they gave up over 100 yards to Robinson, it's like, hey, good job for Robinson. You got to cover him a lot better than that.
And again,
that's a Commanders
he
thing.
is one of the league's biggest matchup problems, in the same way that Christian McCaffrey's done in the past for San Francisco. Again, the biggest catch was the wheel out of the backfield that they caught. They caught the Commanders in man-to-man with Bijan on Bobby Wagner, which is just not going to work. But again, his other 3 catches were all lined up out at receiver. He's a problem out there. And how do you handle that? Do you have an inside guy go and cover him man-to-man? Do you just have him pick apart zone and let Michael Penix make the reads on everybody else? I think that's something that can really unlock this passing game, is Bijan, again, I'll say it again, Charlie Werner in the backfield as the extra protector, which allows Bijan to go and line up outside. That's actually schematically a really big thing for their offense right now. You're going to see a lot more of it with Bijan as just the hybrid playmaker that he is, because he is one of the most talented guys in the league.
Anything else before we move on?
I'm good. I've done enough of Charlie Werner today.
All right. Just want to make sure if you want to get like a tight end 3 shout out in there. You want anything on Felipe Franks?
Nah.
You want to get anything?
Gator great.
Yeah, there it is. Okay. Carolina Panthers and the New England Patriots. Patriots win this one convincingly. 42-13 was the final score. The top 5 graded players that we had for New England at the very top of the list: offensive guard Mike Onwenu with an 86.5. Defensive tackle Christian Barmore an 85.9. Wide receiver Stephon Diggs an 85.7. Linebacker Robert Spillane an 81.1. And then linebacker Jack Gibbons a 77.3. Drake May in this one with a 76.5 overall grade. On Carolina's side of things, good to see Derek Brown at the top of this list. He needs to be. 83.7. Offensive guard Brady Christensen with an 83.5. Defensive tackle Ashawn Robinson an 80.4. Offensive tackle Taylor Moton with a 75.0. Rookie wide receiver Tetron McMillan rounding us out here in the top 5 with a 70.5. Bryce Young a 53.7 in this game. Stats told the story, Dalton. What do we got?
Tell you what, you want efficiency. The Patriots officially ran 48 plays in this game, and they scored 42 points. That's pretty darn efficient, especially in the passing game. How about this? A .875 EPA per pass. All right? That's the highest in the NFL in a single game since the Drew Lock game last year, Giants versus Colts, when he teed off on the Colts and eliminated him from the playoffs.
Who could forget?
And think about this. For all the years we had Tom Brady in New England, right? That's the highest EPA per pass in a Patriots game since Week 16 of 2009.
I knew it would be 9. It has to be 9 because that's the...
07's the year you're thinking of.
The 50 touchdown year?
That's
no?
That's
that was 07?
That's
07. Okay.
But 09.
That's the one that I was thinking
But this
of.
game in 09, I had to look at it. Brady did throw 3 touchdowns to Randy Moss against, I think.
Okay, so the point stands.
Same era.
So the point stands.
You're a couple years early.
Right.
07's the big year. But the highest EPA.
So they already had that one. They just wanted to remind people.
Brady reminded us for a long time. He reminded them in Tampa, too. Don't worry. The highest EPA per pass in a Patriots game since 2009. Which is just, I'll tell you what, Drake May, he only had to throw the ball 17 times in this game. He looks darn comfortable right now, does he? When this Patriots team is not turning the football over.
Does it say more about the Patriots or the Panthers, though?
Well, a little both. We're going to get to the Panthers. But, look, the Patriots, when they're not turning the football over, they look pretty darn comfortable right now. Drake May looks comfortable. 74.9 passing grade, 203 yards on just 17 attempts, career high. Almost 12 yards per attempt. Had a rushing touchdown using his legs when he needs to. And one thing I do like about him running, I think he's getting better about not taking those big hits like the one he got the concussion on last year and certain ones like that. He's getting better about sliding and living to play the next down. Drake May is getting a little more comfortable here week to week in Josh McDaniels' offense. And the other kudos I want to throw out there's several of them we can do for New England. Patriots had the highest graded offensive line in the NFL this week. And I know it's Carolina. I get it. That's going to happen often. But, again, you're talking about progress on this New England offensive line. They have been good this year. And Drake May is getting better week to week. This offense is starting to, when they don't shoot themselves in the foot, because you remember that Raiders game kind of turned on a Drake May interception, a bad ball over the middle, and they should have beat the Steelers, but they turned the darn ball over 5 times. When they don't shoot themselves in the foot, this offense is starting to get it rolling.
Their over-under is 8.5 for wins, which seems high, but it's easy to believe in this team.
If this team executes, and getting Christian Gonzalez back in this game is huge.
It was big, of course.
Massive, because the coverage was really the biggest problem.
Yeah.
They got enough talent on defense. And if their offensive line is going to play like this, now they won't be the highest grade in the league every week. This is Carolina. But they've been every bit of solid so far this year. If that holds, and Drake May, again, I think we're not seeing big, flashy performances. But again, in this game, you talk about 12 yards per attempt. You talk about the most efficient passing game they've had since 2009. That's a lot of Tom Brady years mixed in there. This Patriots team is starting to slowly figure it out. I don't know if there's a big breakout, 35-40. Well, I guess this was the 42-point performance. I should say it was this one. But even for Drake May, it may not look flashy on the surface. He's getting more comfortable. I like where this is going. And to take a team like this, and we thought going into this, the way the Panthers played last week, this would be a competitive game, one way or the other.
Yeah.
Patriots asserted some dominance in this game. We haven't seen them do that in a long time.
I think the stat that told the story is the Patriots 100% in the red zone. They were 4 for 4 in the red zone. They really got it done. I mean, that's really, really important. I think when you talk about Drake May being the talent that he is with his arms and his legs, that has to show up in the red zone. Because when you have that true dual threat type of a player at the quarterback position, it makes you so difficult to defend in the red area. And red zone is obviously important because it's a difference of, coming away with 7 points instead of 3 or 0.
0 like they did multiple times last week.
Right, but when you get into the red zone, execution is so much more important and so much more difficult to do because the space is limited, right? You don't have a receiver to take the top off of defense. You don't have a receiver to carry a corner and a safety deep down the field and open something up underneath. You just don't have that because the defense can use the back of the end zone as that. Well, I would say like the back of the end zone, the sides of the end zone. You get multiple added defenders when you're playing in the red zone. And so when you have a quarterback that is a rushing threat, that then tips things a little bit more towards the offense's scale. And so that's really going to be important for this Patriots team. So them going 4 for 4 in the red zone, huge for this team, huge for Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator. I was very impressed by the Patriots run game. 3 backs in this one had over 4 yards per carry, which is huge. I mean, they have a diverse running back group with Travion Henderson and Antonio Gibson or Ramondre Stevenson. And for those guys to all be efficient when they touch the ball, I think is huge for this team and huge for the committee of what they're going for. So that was sort of my stat that told the story, most impressive. Your most impressive before we'll talk about the Panthers here in a second to round out this
amongst all of the guys who played great, because a lot played great for the Patriots. And to your red zone point, again, last week against Pittsburgh, 2 for 4 with 2 turnovers down on the goal line. You go 4 for 4 last week, you win. I think Mike Vrabel told his team that. But Stephon Diggs also, this was the first time that he looked like this year a number 1 receiver. 6 catches, 101 yards, 3 of those explosive plays. If you get now Stephon Diggs in a rhythm off the knee injury 100%, and he looks something close to, at least for this team, a number 1 receiver. And if I remember right, his usage in the slot was a lot higher in this game. They're moving him around the offense more. It's big. It just adds another dimension. The 2 tight ends, Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper, are playing great. You're starting to find this run game. The offensive line's looking better, and Jared Wilson, the left guard, was out for this game. The offensive line was still really good. Just a nice, complete performance from the Patriots, but Diggs stepping up out there on the outside as a big play threat, that's a big-time development too.
So, for the Panthers, they're now 1-3 on the season. They have the big win against the Falcons, but they've kind of had the Falcons' number over the last couple of years. And to be honest with you, it's hard to take away too much from divisional games, one way or the other, whether you're on one side of a blowout or the other, because divisional games,
they're weird.
They're just very weird. And so I think the non-divisional games are much more indicative of who you are as a team. And for the Panthers, that's not a good thing to say, because they're 0-3 in outside division games, and they've really struggled. This one is from Julian Council. I saw this from him on Twitter, who does a great job covering the team for Locked On Panthers. He said, following today's loss against New England, Dave Canales has a record of 6-15 as the Panthers head coach. In those 15 losses, the Panthers have an average margin of defeat of 18.2. That's nuts. That is, when it goes bad, it goes real bad. that's a tough stat to swallow if you are trying to be hopeful about the Panthers throughout the season. And they got a lot of games to go, and they're gonna play all 17 regular season games no matter what. And so we'll see what this team is. But when I watch this football team, I think the part that's the most damning is I don't think it's all Bryce's fault.
It's not.
Like, I watch Bryce and I go, yeah, I mean, is Bryce perfect? No. But he is not, like, at the top of the – if Bryce was the big reason why they were bad. Like, remember the first two games of last year where Bryce Young was the reason why they lost those two games the way that they did. It was easier to say, hey, we picked the wrong quarterback. Like, we've got some good stuff going on throughout the rest of the roster. We're kind of building the right things here. We took a swing on a quarterback, and not that that's like saving anybody's jobs or anything, but I think it's easier to point at that and say, okay, if we fix the quarterback, the rest of the stuff's going to come together. Bryce is not the problem anymore. Now it's basically everything else. I mean, the linebacker level is very bad for this team. They cannot cover over the middle of the field. Penix had an opportunity to attack over the middle of the field, but he's not super comfortable doing so. I think Lathan Ransom's presence at the safety level helped them when they were going up against the Falcons, but Nick Scott, I think, struggled once again in this game. They can't get any pressure up front. The offensive line's dealing with injuries. The receiving room's not what we thought that it could have been going into the season. I mentioned in the preview show how they're just not able to run the ball as well as they really would like to and stay as balanced as they want. Bryce is like down the list of things that are wrong with this team, and I think that's why I think you kind of got to start looking at the coaching staff and saying that they're just not getting the most out of these guys.
So I'm gonna give you a stat because the defensive side of the ball is still they're a tad better, but they're not significantly better than last year. So their last 20, those same 21 games, like you just mentioned, in 18 of those 21 games, their defensive grade as a team is below a 63. In 18 of those 21 games. Last week, they got a 70 against the Falcons. That's the highest one they've gotten since the start of last year. The highest.
Yeah.
And only one of three above 63. The other thing, too, is you look at these three losses, and in all three of them, I know they kind of sort of came back on the Cardinals and made it a game. In all three of them, and this is the problem I used to have in the previous regime with the New York Jets, they're just not ready to go. In the first quarter especially, they are not ready to go. Really, any part of their team. You mentioned it. Is Bryce playing great? No. Is anybody on this team playing great? Absolutely not. And to me, they're getting off to just horrendous starts. They are not ready to go in the first quarter of these games. That's when I start to worry about preparation and coaching. Absolutely. Because it's the same thing I saw. It's the same thing I saw because the Jets under Robert Saleh, they led the league during his tenure in double-digit losses.
Right.
Same way.
Yeah.
And so often it was this team in the first quarter sleepwalks. Oh, and then we find it the next three and we start competing. You have to go.
I mean, sort of.
You have to
maybe.
go right. Maybe you do. We just talked about it with the Bucs, a good team that you don't want to fall behind every week, or these things can happen.
Right.
This team is falling behind every week now, and they're not capable of getting themselves back into it. In large part, to me, because they can't get stopped still. They can't. They just cannot get stopped. So I would be their next three games are going to be so big for them because especially for this coaching staff. They're 1-3. The three losses are pretty bad. Miami, Dallas, and the Jets. You got to find some wins in there because if they come out of that 1-6 for any reason, there's going to be some chatter. Those are three games of teams that are considered something close to equal on talent level with the Panthers. They got to find some wins in these next three, or there's going to be a different conversation come about week 8 or 9.
I agree. Saints and the Bills, the next game we're talking about here. The Saints made it competitive in Buffalo. I mean, it's competitive. We probably imagine that this game possibly could have been. Hey, covered.
It had to be competitive if they covered.
What did the line end at? Was it 15.5?
I thought it was 16.5, I think.
It was 16.5 at one point, and then I think it went back down to 15.5.
But the smart ones had money on the Saints. Actually, I knew somebody called me yesterday and said they had money on the Saints.
I did not bet on the Saints, but to be honest, like I should have. We were talking about this on the preview show. 15.5 is too many points. Off principle alone, 15.5 is too many points.
It's the NFL.
Just take the 15.5. Yeah. So, anyways, Buffalo does win this game, 31-19. Top 5 graded players that we have for the Buffalo Bills. Running back James Cook, 86.6. Brother, this run game is about as steady and dependable as you could be in Buffalo right now. And he's a reason why. The offensive line's a reason why. I mean, they're cooking right now. Edge rusher Greg Rousseau, I feel like he is every single week in the top 5 here at number 2. 79.5. Offensive tackle Ryan Vandermark with a 79.0. Edge rusher AJ Epinesa with a 76.9. Offensive guard Davis Edwards with a 74.7. Quarterback Josh Allen is 66.1. On the Saints side of things, my boy Jonas Sanker. I feel like I was a little bit higher on him than most people in the draft, so I got to shout him out there. Scouting win. I'm taking it. I'm not looking at his grades from this point on. I'm just taking it as a win. He's at the top of the list with an 85.0. Running back Kendre Miller, 82.8. Edge rusher Carl Granderson is 67.3. Offensive tackle Kelvin Banks Jr. is 66.9. Offensive guard Cesar Ruiz with a 66.7. And then Spencer Rattler, a 65.1. Stat that told the story, Dalton.
First, apologies to David Edwards there. I had a typo there. I've been up since 6 a.m., so these things happen with the typos. Okay.
I won't forgive you.
I know, you never do.
Anything on that teleprompter, I will read.
Oh, I know. At least you know how to read. That's good.
The Ron Burgundy of sports.
That kind of makes sense. I could see that.
Thank you.
It's reasonable.
I mean, if I just go with the mustache, could pull it off.
Yeah, you probably could. I couldn't. I could never go just mustache. I couldn't do it. I'm not.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see that.
No, I wouldn't either. Nobody would. None of you would, I'm sure of it. Okay, so this game, despite the Saints, yes, covering, and they had it competitive for a while. They've kind of been doing that in a couple of these losses they've had here. I think Brandon Staley's actually done a reasonably good job with this defense, especially with some of the young kids, preventing explosive plays and keeping in it. Demario Davis is playing fantastic football, things like that. To me, though, I think the Saints at this point, I hate to be this just like this early in the season, but I mean, I just don't have a quarterback I can take seriously.
And just don't think the roster is there. Like, Spencer's not even playing poorly.
I think their defense is playing okay, all things considered. I think the offensive line's obviously young and trying to figure it out. Spencer, 4.7 yards per attempt.
It's not great.
The good plays in this game that he made were running the football. And I actually believe at this point, and I think this was the tie break between him and Tyler Shuck in the preseason anyway, it's just that Rattler is a little bit of a better athlete. And he can give you something as a runner and something moving the pocket, whereas Shuck is really going to be kind of confined to the pocket. Again, in the preseason, I thought the two of them played about even football, and Rattler's just a better athlete who has the year of NFL experience. But 52 passing grade, 126 yards on 27 attempts, 2 fumbles. This season, most turnover-worthy plays in football with 10. 5.2 yards per attempt. That's the 4th lowest in the league. 64.7 passing grade on 10-plus yard throws. There just isn't a quarterback. I think, honestly, for me, this is the type of game, because I'm not expecting the Saints to go into Buffalo and win. They competed harder for 3.5 quarters than I thought they would, because I think Brandon Staley's actually doing a pretty good job with their defense. I do. But until they have a quarterback, I'm counting down the days, to me, until they have a quarterback that I can actually just be like, okay, I believe in this. And we're going to get, at some point this year, we're going to see Tyler Shuck. We're going to see him.
Right.
Because there's just no reason not to see him at some point.
Yeah, and that's the tough part about how we talk about the Saints is I agree with you. I feel like most of the team is maybe playing better than we expected the Saints to play this year.
They ran the ball well in this game. Their defense has quietly been, other than the Seattle game, it all just fell apart on them, that the Avalanche got them. But their other 3 games, their defense has not played that bad. They've kept them in the game. They kept them in this game in Buffalo, which is really hard to do.
I agree.
But the more I watch this team, and I flip it to the offensive side of the tape, and I just go, I just don't have a quarterback.
No, they're not explosive enough
at all.
They're not potent enough on the offensive side of the ball and at quarterback. And I don't think Spencer Rattler is playing catastrophically bad. I just think the ceiling with him is just it's low. It's low. And when you play the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, you're not going to.
I think if Spencer Rattler's your backup, you actually feel okay.
Yeah, you feel good about that.
If he's your starter for most of 17, you don't feel very okay.
Well, then you're drafting. I mean, not to be too harsh about it, but that's why you reached for a 26-year-old quarterback in the 2nd round in this quarterback class, right? I mean, that's sort of the situation that we're in. So, yeah, we have to see Tyler Shuck because you drafted him in the 2nd round to hopefully be better than whatever Spencer Rattler's giving you, and he's not out there starting. Now, that's fine. I'm not saying that Shuck's never going to be good because he's not starting by week 4, but we kind of got to see it soon, right?
I would think.
Well, what do you have to lose at this point? You're 0-4. Anyways, on the Bills side of things, which I think is the better, probably the more tangible takeaway, the run game's unbelievable. They are third in EPA per rush as a team this season. They are fourth in total rushing yards as a team this season. They are number one in the NFL in average time of possession. That's what I love the most about this Bills team. They control so much of an uncontrollable game. They can have a 33-second drive that ends in a field goal or a touchdown, or they can have a 13-minute drive with 30 plays. Now, I know that math probably doesn't check out there, but you know what I'm saying here. That's what this team has the ability to do. They can speed it up and slow it down on command, and it is so very rare to have a team that has an offensive line, a running back, passing weapons, personnel diversity, and most importantly, a quarterback that allows you to do those things. And the Bills have all 5 of them. So that this team is, we do power rankings at NFLSC. I have the Bills at number 1. I have the Bills at number 1 because of that. Because I just think they control the game so well, where other teams that are good, and these other teams that are around them in my top 3 and top 5, are capable of beating the Buffalo Bills, but just the way that they dominate the game has been unbelievable. My most impressive is James Cook, 22 carries, 117 yards, a touchdown, 8th straight game with a touchdown. That's a Buffalo Bills franchise record there. And it's clockwork, how they're able to get this guy in the end zone as much as they are. So it's much more than just, fantasy stats or anytime TD stats or whatever. Like, this is dominance. That's a dominant stat to me. So I think that actually matters, because 8 straight times you've been able to get this guy in the end zone, no matter who you're playing, that is a tangible thing to be talking about here for the Bills offense.
Absolutely. And I just, watching this offense, my most impressive is the offensive line, because I mentioned New England as the highest graded offensive line of the week earlier. Buffalo was second right behind them. The Bills have the highest graded offensive line this season. And this is a game we saw Ryan Vandemark in their top 5 graded players. Spencer Brown, he was filling in for Spencer Brown at right tackle, who's really good. And Vandemark comes in, you don't even notice. You don't even notice that Spencer Brown is out. He was so good. This is the highest graded offensive line in football right now. They're dominating in run blocking. They're dominating in pass protection. And then to your point about the personnel, when you watch this team play to play in sequence, it is head spinning. You talk about before, I've talked about other teams tipping their pitches and, formations can give things away and personnel and this and that. This team right now, what Joe Brady does, it's head spinning to figure out the personnel packages and the way the Bills do things. They've got 3 different tight ends that played at least 20 snaps in this game. They played 6 different wide receivers that played at least 14 snaps in this game. We know they go with the 6 offensive linemen a lot. 3 different running backs are getting snaps. A fullback's playing 17 snaps. They use every single offensive player on their roster, and they use them with purpose. They really do. Especially to me, the 3 tight ends are just ridiculous. Dalton Kincaid catches another touchdown. We know Dawson Knox can block. Jackson Hawes has been awesome in this offense. I've mentioned that before. This team has so many different ways to beat you, even though these guys aren't household names other than Josh Allen. Joe Brady's just, I'll say it again, he's doing a masterful job, and it makes me think that the Bills need to win a trophy with him this year, because he's going to be somewhere else come the spring.
Somebody in the chat saying, is James Cook better than Dalvin? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I'd take Dalvin. Dalvin's peak is.
I don't think so, but are we working on it?
No, it's closer than I ever thought it would be. I'm going to be honest with you.
The bigger thing to me is, you think they have this argument?
Of course, they have to. They're brothers.
Well, I'm just saying, maybe, I don't. Sometimes it could be cordial and just be like, "Hey, we were both pretty good."
No,
you don't think so?
No, not anymore. Now that's the level we're at. They're not being cordial anymore.
Now that James has established himself.
I wonder if James. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, like, how long Dalvin's peak was, because I feel as though James, certainly in this situation that he's in with the Bills, could have the longer run of success. But when we talk about who's better, I would take Dalvin. I think Dalvin's peaks. And I just think that Dalvin's was more physically gifted than James was. So
it's an interesting element. I'm just looking at Dalvin's right here. Dalvin, not as long as I thought.
It was only like 3 years,
you got
4 years, right?
Maybe 5. You got like 5 years of peak Dalvin.
But those were...
I mean, they were pretty darn good.
They were elite.
They sure were. There was
especially the Florida State. I mean, if we're taking college into account,
no, college Dalvin was better. Dalvin was better in college.
Yes,
because James Cook with this deep rotation at Georgia. We're getting into way too many arguments here, but James Cook at Georgia was kind of James Cook at Georgia was kind of in the rotation and even more of the passing down back.
Yeah,
Dalvin in college was better.
Yeah, NFL was insane.
NFL at the end of it, we might have an argument.
I'm taking Dalvin. Browns and the Lions. The Detroit Lions looking like their old selves. 34-10. They take down one of the best defenses in the NFL. Top 5 graded players that we have for the Detroit Lions in this game. Edge rusher Aiden Hutchinson with a 92.6. Great to see him back up there at number 1. Linebacker Jack Campbell with an 89.3. Edge rusher Al-Quadin Muhammad. You've shouted him out for having an incredible year so far to start the year. 86.2. Offensive tackle Penei Sewell an 80.7. Cornerback DJ Reed a 77.2. Quarterback Jared Goff a 66.8. Excuse me. On the other side of things, Cleveland's top graded player, as it often is, edge rusher Myles Garrett with a 90.5. Defensive tackle Shelby Harris an 89.3. Linebacker Carson Schwessinger with a 78.3. Cornerback Miles Harden. Look at the rook getting in here.
South Dakota or North Dakota? I think it was South Dakota,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. Wow. I loved this landing spot for him as well. So good to see him on the board there at a 75.2. And then wide receiver Isaiah Bond, another rookie, 73.9. Joe Flacco in this one, a 62.7, and one of the most puzzling interceptions that you're going to see this season. Stat that told the story, Dalton.
The interception, when I looked at it again, pretty obvious. I know what you're It's kind of that balloon ball he threw.
Did he just think somebody was running a go?
Yes.
And they weren't.
Press coverage. I don't remember who the receiver was. It may have been Isaiah Bond. I don't remember. But he thought they were chucking it up on press, and it just didn't happen. Yeah. So these things happen when you have so many young kids on an offense. The other one, Penei Sewell, and I did the full film breakdown of him in last week's game against her. Did you see this Penei Sewell play in this game? They're running a pin pull to his side, so he's the puller.
Okay.
He gets out on the edge on Denzel Ward, okay, which is not a great matchup. That's one problem.
He could block him with one arm and then keep going.
Well, but here's the thing. So he's got Denzel Ward locked going out to the sideline.
Yeah.
Carson Schwessinger is coming from the inside, just trying to get to the football. I forget which back had it, probably Gibbs.
Yeah.
He's just trying to get there. He happens to run into this Ward and Sewell mismatch, and Sewell pancakes both of them out on the sideline. He took Ward and Schwessinger.
I told you.
Just
could have done it with
legitimately can just pancake two guys in one play. I saw this and I was like, this is some level of ridiculous. You get out on a corner, you maul a corner and the team's best linebacker at the same time. Just ridiculous stuff from Sewell. But no, to me, I'll tell you what, against this defense, this Browns defense, highest graded defense in football, freak defensive line with Myles Garrett and those guys, game manager is often used as an insult. In this moment for Jared Goff, definitely the highest of compliments, because you need Jared Goff to be in a quarterback like Jared Goff in here to just manage this thing around this defensive line. And the Lions knew it. They knew it. They weren't just going to run into the teeth of this and do their usual 3.5-second passing concepts against this Browns. You can't do it. You watched the Packers tape last week. What was one of the themes? Well, Jordan Love, sometimes he likes to hold the football. Mm-hmm. You got to not like to hold the football against this team.
Yeah, you got to do something different.
Jared Goff, average time to throw, 2.47 seconds, second fastest since the start of last year. Did not take a single sack in this game. Now, he had the bad interception on the deep ball. He did not complete a deep ball in this game. Underneath, he was spectacular. On throws under 20 yards, 85.4 passing grade, 16 for 18. Both of the incompletions were drops, 100% adjusted completion rate. 168 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 big-time throw in the intermediate range. Jared Goff came in here. I think John Morton also deserves a ton of credit here. This team, we've seen it now with the Packers, and we saw it with even Cincinnati. This Browns team, you mess around and you give this D-line a shot to get to your quarterback, they can beat you. They just proved it last week. John Morton and Jared Goff came into this game with a plan of, okay, we got to work around this. We're not going to do this every week. We're not going to speed things up like this every week. But Jared Goff, honestly, for the most part in this game, was playing at hyper speed and doing it well, because that's the one thing about this Browns team that can beat you, this front seven. He gets a ton of credit. John Morton, the offensive coordinator, who obviously is in the spotlight, replacing Ben Johnson, I think you could argue that he called this game even better than the game he did against the Ravens last week.
They're feeling it. There's no doubt about
Absolutely.
it. They are in their groove. Like I just talked about the Buffalo Bills feeling fully confident to basically operate their offense however they want. You talked about how they're basically utilizing every single offensive player on the roster. It feels like that's what the Lions are doing. They're just very comfortable and confident in exactly what they want to do on the offensive side of the ball every single week. My most impressive in this one is Jahmyr Gibbs for that reason, right? You need somebody to get away from the trenches. Who is a major weapon for you when it comes to getting out to the sideline and getting up the field? It's Jahmyr Gibbs. 15 attempts, 91 rushing yards, 6.1 yards per carry average, and a touchdown in this one. And then as a receiver, he had 2 targets, 2 catches for 6 yards as well. So how you utilize him as being somebody who can stretch the defense and get them out to the sideline and get away from the teeth of that defense. I mean, David Montgomery in this one. David Montgomery is what? He's the between the tackles guy. Not that he can't bounce to the outside, but that is certainly what he is best at. He is a between the tackles guy. This game went exactly the way that you thought it was going to. Montgomery got 9 carries, 12 yards, 1.3 average yards per carry. That is the Cleveland Browns defense. And they go, you know what? We're just going to have some plays where we're just going to have to eat it. This is what we have to do, but we're going to complement those plays with being able to stretch it to the outside. So I agree. It's a great shout out for the Lions, who are playing really good ball right now. Stat that told the story for me, Browns offensive line.
Yeah, they just can't.
They're not good. And again, we have this. I feel like I bring this up every single week because I'm just so shocked that they did nothing about this in the offseason. Their best offensive linemen right now are the 2 guys who are well over the age of 30, and Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller, and they are not the Pro Bowl players that they used to be. But they are by far the most consistent, and I barely even mean that as a compliment for how poorly this offensive line is playing. They just traded for Cam Robinson. They just traded a late-round pick for Cam Robinson. And it's like, okay, Cam Robinson just went from Jacksonville to getting traded to the Minnesota Vikings to getting traded to the Houston Texans. And the Houston Texans offensive line, let me remind you, is bad.
If
you're getting traded from the Houston Texans.
Yeah, that's not good. They are, and this is the problem for the Browns. There's honestly, I think there's a lot for the Browns. Sounds funny, that has gone right. Young players playing well. Highest graded defense. Quinshon Judkins looks really good in the 2 games he's played.
He does.
The problem is the O-line and then the quarterback. Sometimes we get these older quarterbacks that don't look old until, eventually time always wins. But Joe Flacco looks.
No, he's got enough salt in the beard. We know that he's old.
Yeah.
The question now becomes really what the takeaway from this game is. I think the takeaway that you mentioned is the Lions. The Lions playing really well. For Cleveland now, they started the season better than maybe some people thought, right? It was a game against the Bengals where they probably should have beat the Bengals. Now we've got a clamp down win against the Green Bay Packers. This is a good defensive team. We're sort of weeding out what the experimental options are going to be with this team now, because a lot of the rookies are playing already, right? Mason Graham's playing already. Harold Fannon's playing already. The running backs are playing already. Carson Schwessinger's playing already. You got Miles Harden playing already.
And they're all playing well.
Really well.
All of them.
So you're playing a lot of rookies already. The only thing that you have left to do is make the change of quarterback. And the Browns are sitting here and they're 1-3, okay? They're not going to make a change this week because they're playing Minnesota in London. They're not going to make a change for a quarterback going to play an international game.
Yep.
Okay, so we're not going to make a change this week. If they beat the Vikings, I think that prolongs things probably until the bye week, because the bye week is week 9. They go Minnesota and then they're at Pittsburgh, never ideal, versus Miami. So they're hosting Miami, which could be beneficial for them. And then they're at New England, which depends what kind of New England team you get. You're probably going to get a good one, though, but you have an option there. Then you have the bye week, and then you have at New York Jets in week 10 after that. So the way that I see this script playing out for the Cleveland Browns is you're playing Joe Flacco one more time this week. If they win, Flacco probably starts again in Pittsburgh. And then if they lose in Pittsburgh, I think you have an opportunity to see either Gabriel or Shedeur. It's probably going to be Gabriel first, right? You get to see him for 2 games against Miami and New England, and then you get sort of a free little reset, and you go, okay, do we want to give Gabriel the bye, or do we want to give Shedeur the bye as the starting quarterback? So that's the way that I see this playing out for Cleveland, who is just, I hate to say it, they're going to waste an elite defense this year.
Yes.
They're going to waste it. But you got to get quarterback figured out.
Yeah, I mean, you look ahead and you go, you can guarantee with one of those 2 first-round picks next year they're taking an offensive tackle. That's without question. It's going to happen. It's the matter of.
What did you say there?
They're going to take they have 2 first-round picks next year.
Yes.
With one of them's going to be.
You said one of them. I thought you said the top one. And
no.
I was like,
one of them. Whichever.
One of them is going.
One of them will be an offensive tackle,
and the other one will. I won't say quarterback. I'll let it play out. I'll let it play out.
No, you're right though. This is why you want to see those guys play.
You have to.
Just in case.
You have to.
Because at this point,
you can't.
Joe Flacco. I mean,
you can't. We can't get to week 14 and they go, hey, let's give.
Yeah, no.
Dylan Gabriel a try.
There's no more. You mentioned it.
The bye week's the very last week.
There's no more. There's no more than 4 weeks on this. You're right. That part is correct. And if it's just that, I mean, and the pass protection is going to be what it is. They're trying to fix it for whoever goes in there because they need to. The offensive tackle position's a mess for them. But no, I mean, it's coming. It's going to happen because I mean, they're at the 2 spots that they are the most dysfunctional at, offensive tackle and right now at quarterback. Mm-hmm. That's what's sinking. Actually, the rest of I'd say a better ship than we expected to be.
I would agree.
Really.
I would agree.
And again, big stuff that all of their rookies that are playing well. Every single one of them.
My most disappointing is Jerry Jeudy, but I'm kind of tired of talking about that. He had 9 targets, 3 catches, 48 yards. 33 of them happened on 1 catch. I mean, you just need your wide receiver 1 to be more consistent than that. You can't have 33 yards of your 48 come on 1 catch, and then we're just doing nothing basically the rest of the game. But we talked about how quarterback is sort of hampering that a little bit. So I'm just disappointed in the wide receiver 1 play from him. It's not all his fault. It's a lot of offensive dysfunction. But anything else from you on this one?
Oh, just most impressive real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Lions fans. He's back. Aiden Hutchinson is back. 94.2 pass rush grade in this game.
What a player, man.
Top 5 basically across the board in every pass rush metric we have. 2 sacks. A third one, a strip sack that was negated by a penalty elsewhere. 33% pass rush win rate. And look, I know this is about as good as a matchup as you could possibly have. But Aiden Hutchinson looks like Aiden Hutchinson.
Which is a beautiful thing.
And I'll tell you what, the top 2 guys, actually I should say the top 3 guys, because you got Hutchinson, Al-Qadim Muhammad's playing out of his mind. And I'm telling you right now, this started the second half of last year. Jack Campbell's one of the best linebackers in football. He is just fantastic. This Lions defense healthy, and with Hutchinson, we got to not forget about them. And Hutchinson, Micah Parsons, maybe he's a favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year. Hutchinson plays like this. He's going to give him a run for his money. Never wrong, just early.
I'll let you go with that one. Texans and the Titans. That's the next game we're talking about here. The Texans win this one 26-0. The Houston Texans, top 5 graded players that we have. Look at this offensive guard, Ed Ingram, 88.9. They said the Texans couldn't block. We got an offensive lineman at number 1, Dalton. Edge rusher Danielle Hunter right after him at an 81.3. Running back Woody Marks with a 76.7. Wide receiver Nico Collins a 75.9. Defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins a 75.3. And then C.J. Stroud a 72.8 in this one. On the Titans side of things, linebacker Cedric Gray is the top man for their top 5 with a 90.2. Defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons 82.4. And the quickest sack you will ever see in your life happened in this game.
Did it count as a sack? Or was it a run play because it was just so,
Oh, I mean, I would think that it's a sack, right?
I got to check.
Didn't he tackle Ward immediately? Or did he tackle
Stroud, yeah.
Sorry,
but I'm not sure. I got to check that.
Okay.
See if he actually got a sack on that.
We'll do some further research on it. Edge rushers Draymond Jones a 77.7. Edge rushers Jihad Ward a 77.6. Safety Quandre Diggs a 74.0. And then Cam Ward in this one, 41.5. It's just a struggle for everybody. After the game, and I'm quoting him here, he said, "I'm going to keep it a buck. We ass." And it's kind of hard to disagree with him when you lose 26-0 against a team that is one of the more disappointing teams in the NFL. I don't really care if it's on the road and at their place. This was tough. I thought that Woody Marks and he was the difference on the Texans side of things. I think how well he was able to play. He scored 2 touchdowns in this one. He was a little bit of the X factor. So to me, I guess that he was sort of that stat that told the story, is that little bit of extra for the Texans, who a lot of, Nico Collins gets 4 receptions, 6 targets, 79 receiving yards. But it really, the outlier here is Marks, who had 17 attempts, 69 rushing yards, 4.1 yards per carry average, 1 touchdown. And then in the receiving game, which he is much more known for, I would say, 5 targets, 4 receptions, 50 yards, and a touchdown. So his 2 touchdowns to me were just the difference maker in this one outside of the rest of the obvious. Will Anderson Jr. plays well. Danielle Hunter plays well. Nico Collins plays well. Okay, like that's our sort of to be expected. He was the difference, in my opinion, of why the Houston Texans were able to score as many points as they did in this game for the first time this season.
Yeah, and look, after the first 3 quarters, this game was still only 6-0. What happened is Woody Marks was able to punch the door enough times that eventually it just came down because the Titans, they couldn't give their defense a break. The defense just gassed out. Simmons did get a sack on that, by the way. I think, from what I was saying, I think it was supposed to be a play-action pass, and it just never happened.
Yeah.
What did they say, like 1.2 seconds or something like that?
Yeah,
whatever.
It's
like the fastest,
as quick as you'll ever see it.
I think it was like the fastest get-off we've seen in 8 years or something like that.
What were they trying to do on that play?
I think it was hard sell play action with a divide with 2 deep crossers is what it looked like to me.
Yeah. But why did the center? Did the center think that they were like down blocking the other way?
It might
or
have,
shifting protection.
I can look at it one more time here. Let me see what this right guard did. Because the get off was just ridiculous.
Because the right guard and the right tackle almost stand up and don't block anybody, if I'm remembering the play correctly. And he just swims the center, and he just immediately gets a Stroud.
No, the right guard had no idea what he was doing.
But the
right guard went the wrong way. It was supposed to be zone action, or a down block. No, not a zone action. I think it's supposed to be a down block from the right guard, and he steps to his right.
He goes the opposite way.
The right guard did not know what he was doing. I think he thought the action was to the other side.
Unfortunately, that happened in the Raiders game too. On the play where Genty got blasted in the backfield. Like immediately, like it looked like it was totally a blown play. It was because
the center like abandoned it, didn't he?
Meredith thought it was a Meredith shoots out like it's a mid or outside zone run. So he hikes the football, and his first step it's as if he's going to the sideline. Like this is a mid or outside zone play, and the whole rest of the offensive line is like blocking duo, like it's power, and they just run straight at him. And I felt bad for Genty on that play, but it looked very similar what we saw.
For those of you thinking it's still Ashton Genty's fault, anyway, what a day for rookie backs, by the way. Genty was great, Hampton was great, Woody Marks was great, Cam Scadaboo's been great. Quinshon Judkins has been pretty darn good. We got what a rookie running back class we have. Man.
Draft rookie running backs, man.
Good players.
Let the young guys play. They're hungry. Anyways, that told the story?
Titans. I mean, the stat for me is kind of like this. It's kind of the stat that tells a not great story. 2 explosive passes for the Titans. That's cool. I mean, that's a couple of nice plays. Those 2 passes accounted for more than half of their passing yards, 55 of the 108. You take those 2 out. And those 2 passes, when they got those 2 explosive passes, those were the 2 drives where at least they had a chance to kick a field goal and then missed them both. Otherwise, 8 for 24, Cam Ward for 53 yards and an interception. Ward was under pressure, I believe, 50% of the time, which, that's not the first time we've said that, which is 51% of the time, again, he was pressured in this game. 39 pass blocking grade with 4 of the 5 starters playing. The Titans are completely dysfunctional on offense.
Yeah.
Just completely, and they don't even have that many injuries. Really none, except for the right tackle, J.C. Latham, was out in this game. They're relatively healthy, and this is the worst offense in football. They are completely Cam Ward doesn't stand a chance. We can't even evaluate him.
Yeah.
This is just.
And that's the danger, right? And you start talking about, Brian Callahan, he gives up play calling duties. That's normally not a great sign for offensive head coaches for what is to come. But I think that's the big danger, right, is do you get to the point where you go, okay, well, now we can't evaluate Cam Ward anymore. So now changes have to be made one way or the other. And I don't know who they're going to turn to if they end up letting Brian Callahan go in the middle of the season, or if it doesn't get better, if we have a couple more weeks like this, I don't know how much longer he lasts.
I mean, they have just there was some flashes it was their 3rd game last week that they played. There was some, when they played the Colts, and even then the Kenny Moore pick 6 early just kind of took the wind out of the sails early. The Titans have really shown just about week 1 a little bit on defense, but they've shown not much fight offensively, especially. Their offensive line is just completely dysfunctional. They just cannot. And you've got, Latham's hurt right now. Skaranski's a first-round pick. He wasn't good in this game. Dan Moore Jr. has not been good at all at left tackle. That's $20 million a year. They're just not giving Cam Ward a shot. There's no shot. I don't – it's – you hate to say it because they're such a young team and they're building from the bottom. They have a new quarterback, but not a whole lot of positive right now in Tennessee in general, but this offense especially. I know it's a tough matchup with Houston, but – most of these teams in the NFL have some sort of talent on the defensive. They got to play the Cardinals this week. There's plenty of talent on that defensive line. If you can't block the Cardinals, you get shut out again. This is just the Titans can't block anybody. Cam Ward this season, for the season, this is 4 games now, 45% pressure rate. Just can't.
Yeah, you're not evaluating a quarterback at that point.
You just can't. And you can see it when he's clean. And Cam Ward wants to hang back there and be relaxed, and he's got the swagger back there. But he's got to get rid of the football before he wants to, and he's never been a quick game, super get rid of the football in 2.2 seconds
he wants to play more of like a backyard style, so like pressure isn't a deal breaker for him having success. But that at that level is okay. It's going to become overwhelming for him. Anything else on this one before we move on? There's not a lot to talk about in this game, I'm going to be honest.
Not a ton. Danielle Hunter was fantastic, as you might expect in a game like this. 6 pressures, 2 sacks. And the Texans, eventually they broke the wall down. I'm curious to see if Woody Marks gets more run in the next few weeks as just the back with more just more electric feet than Nick Chubb, obviously. And who knows if and when they'll get Joe Mixon back. But young players playing well for the Texans. Woody Marks, Jaden Higgins caught a touchdown. That's big time for him.
All right, before we move on to the next game, there's some things that school doesn't really teach you, right? Like how to handle the financial world or how to have a plan for financial success for your kids, right? Fabric makes it easy for you to set up an investment account for your child that grows and helps them prepare for their financial future. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With the kids' investment account from Fabric, you guys can start investing in your child's future today. While the kids can't invest while they're minors, this UGMA Kids Investment Account allows you to invest on their behalf, and it gives their investments so much more time to grow. The funds can be used for nearly anything when it comes to, when they're kids. Maybe it's tuition, it's books, it's summer camps, it's after-school activities, it's sports, things like that. And then when they're older, maybe you are helping them buy their first house, buy their first car, start a business, whatever that looks like. Whole thing is online. Setting up an account could take you as little as just 5 minutes. And then you can get started investing with as little as $1 a day. Manage your child's account, monitor those investments right from your phone. No contribution limits to it. It's got multiple tax advantages. Funds are SIPC insured with $500,000 plus no commission fees, just a low, flat monthly maintenance fee on it. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Start investing in your child's future today at meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. That's meetfabric.com/PFFNFL, MEET, fabric.com/PFFNFL. The portfolios are managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors Incorporated. Additional services provided by Apex Coin Corporation. All investing is subject to risk. Learn more at meetfabric.com. This is my favorite game. This is the game that I was looking forward to the most this week. Colts-Rams. And I don't think it let us down. It was a great execution. It was some not-so-great execution. And we had a thriller down to the very end. Los Angeles Rams ended up defending home field, winning this one by a score of 27-20. Top 5 graded players that we had for the Los Angeles Rams. Safety Cam Curl. Massive game in this one. 93.9. That is a huge grade. Edge rusher Jared Verse, a 93.6. Wide receiver Puka Nacua, a 92.6. Those are some massive performances there from those guys. Defensive tackle Kobe Turner, an 80.6. Defensive tackle Poona Ford, a 78.3. And then Matthew Stafford just continuing to be perhaps the highest performing quarterback in the NFL so far this season, 82.2. On Indianapolis side of things, their edge rusher Latu with an 89.6. I forgot, this is the battle of Edge 1 between Latu and Jared Verse.
What a battle.
What a battle indeed with both of those guys. Very top of the list. Defensive tackle Adetomiwa Adebawore with an 89.4. Defensive tackle DeForest Buckner with a 74.6. Offensive tackle Bernard Ryman with a 73.5. Running back Jonathan Taylor, a 73.2. And then Daniel Jones in this one, a 60.1. Dalton, they can't call it the perfect season anymore. They're not calling it the perfect season.
They had to punt 4 times.
Oh.
It's over.
Rigoberto Sanchez got to do his job?
Couldn't be me.
That's tough. Yeah, we know.
Imagine doing
Stat that told the story. What do you got?
I just actually want to talk just in general about Puka Nacua and the year he's having. Let's talk. Well, first of all, the game he had in this game. 92.1 receiving grade in this game. 13 catches out of 14 targets for $170. Tied the game late with a touchdown, a screen pass down in the red zone. 7 other catches went for first downs. Trevor, he leads the NFL. He leads all offensive players in PFF grade, in receiving grade, in targets, catches, yards, first downs, contested catches, yards per route run, explosive catches, and has darn near a 41% threat rate. Okay? Who's your MVP early this season? Who would you pick for MVP right now? Is it Dak at 1-2-1? Was it Justin Herbert maybe knocked down a notch? Is it Mahomes?
I honestly thought about Stafford just because of how well he's been playing.
I could make the argument it's Puka Nacua.
I with numbers like that, I think you already did.
I think he's at this point undoubtedly a top 5 receiver in the NFL.
Oh, there's no you can we brought this up like a week ago. 2 weeks ago maybe. Nacua is already in the conversation. The question is just, is he number 1?
So through this window of 4 weeks?
Well, he certainly has.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and you think and you flash back to the year that Cooper Kupp had when they won the Super Bowl, right? Nacua he's making a bid to outdo that year. Think no receiver.
That they just cloned that, right? They drafted Cooper Kupp was coming towards the end of his time in Los Angeles, and they drafted a guy who said, "I'm going to be your shadow for my entire rookie season. Everywhere you go, I'm going to go. Every time that you work out, I'm going to work out. Everything that you eat, I'm going to eat. Every time that you sleep and prioritize rest, that's what I'm going to do. When we're watching film together." It is crazy that they got a player who was so willing to do the work to be great. And now that they have a guy who, it's crazy that you just said that, and I believe it, that he could have a year that's better than Cooper Kupp's Triple Crown.
Well, 503 through 4 games. You're pacing darn near somewhere around 2,100 yards. No one's ever hit 2,000, remember. Kupp had the second most yards of all time behind Calvin Johnson, which was 1960-something.
I can't remember
Nobody's ever hit 2,000. And through 4 games, he's pacing pretty well over 2,000. If he plays all 17 games, this is going to be some year from Puka Nacua. And I would really make the argument that through 4 weeks with none of the quarterback, you could argue Mahomes and at least scratching back to 2-2. Mm-hmm. Justin Herbert took a hit yesterday. Jordan Love probably taking a hit the last couple weeks. So whoever else you want to throw in there, you could certainly make the argument it's Nacua because it's not just okay, he's really good. It's everything. Press man deep ball down the sideline. There it is. Find a hole in zone anywhere on the field. There it is. Score a game-tying touchdown on a smoke screen. There it is. And then the amount that they use him in the run game as a pseudo second or third tight end and what he gives them blocking too, it's unreal the number of roles that he plays. And the amount that he moves around. Sean McVay has made him the most uncoverable player in football because of alignment and the different types of usage. He can just do everything at an elite level. It's just you only hope he plays all 17 games because he could be putting together an all-time great year. Offensive player of the year, absolutely on the table. If he hits 2,000 yards, there might be some MVP chatter.
So it's funny, just like how the awards work, how MVP is just a quarterback award at this point. Puka Nacua is the favorite to win Offensive Player of the Year right now over at DraftKings at plus 300. He is plus 50,000 to win MVP.
That makes no sense to me at all.
I agree.
Who are some of the other guys in that range?
At 50,000?
Plus 50,000.
Here, I'll tell you. Hold on. I got to scroll all the way to the bottom because that's the highest odds that we have.
Because I'm sure live on the show now it's going to move about 10 minutes from now. But who are the other players at plus 50,000 for comparison's sake?
Tony Pollard.
Oh, okay.
Chase Brown.
Oh.
Cortland Sutton. Chuba Hubbard.
Mm-hmm.
Travis Kelce.
Oh.
Tyreek Hill. Trey Hendrickson. T. Higgins. Abdul Carter, Nico Collins, A.J. Brown, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jared Verse, Ladd McConkey, George Karlaftis, Jackson Dart.
George Karlaftis.
Chase
Brown.
George Karlaftis and Chase Brown have the same odds as Puka Nacua to win MVP. Yes. Yes.
Okay. I'm sure that'll change after we just read that off. I'm sure of it.
I hope not. I got to get my bet in. My staff told the story, Colts turnovers, right? I think the Colts turnovers are the reason why they lose what was a very tight football game, and they just made a couple more mistakes. And the A.D. Mitchell one's tough, right? I mean, like, I don't know if he's changing the ball in one hand to the other to celebrate. I don't know if he's trying to, reach out for the end zone, whatever it is. He ends up fumbling it out of the back of the end zone, and that's a backbreaker for you, especially because he had another play where a holding call that he had negated a long Jonathan Taylor run of over 50 yards. And so A.D. Mitchell, unfortunately, gets the most disappointing tag, and then that just goes into the fact that this was such a great game. And this is one of those games where the Colts lose, I feel better about them.
No, they played right? Aside from a handful of mistakes, and the Rams D-line got the better of them, Jared Verse, but they're going to get the better of everybody.
I think the
Colts played mostly well in this game. It's just a handful of plays for the difference.
I think the Rams are a top 5 team in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm in on that.
Right? This game's in L.A. They were a weird fumble into the back of the end zone and a blown coverage on Tutu Atwell away from traveling across the country to win this game against one of the hottest quarterbacks in the NFL and a guy who could have an MVP candidacy as a wide receiver. So, to me, this is one of those weird games where you lose, and I feel better about you because now I know for a fact that the Colts can hang with one of the best teams in the NFL. And before it was like, all right, yeah, they're playing really well, they're very efficient, but what happens if they go up against some of the best teams? Now I know what happens. They look just as good. Well, I mean, not just as good. It's going to be more difficult because you're going up against a better team. But I have so much. The Colts are still a top 10 team for me.
What you're saying there, and this is what you want to see. If you're Shane Steichen, you shrug your shoulders and go, "We made mistakes against a good team. Can't have it." They didn't lose that game on talent. They lost it on execution.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, so be it. Move on to next week.
And Xavier Howard really struggled in this game. I know you're going to highlight the Colts corners, but he gave up. I think it was it like 8 of 10 targets for over 100 yards in this game?
112 yards,
They picked on him a lot. And I get it. It's Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. If we're going to compliment one guy, there's going to be another side of the coin. If Puka Nacua gets all this yardage, somebody's giving it up. But it just felt like it was always Xavier Howard in this game.
Oh, him and then Mekhi Blackmon with the game-winning touchdown against Tutu Atwell falling down and all of that.
Right.
That's really the one thing is aside from Charvarius Ward, obviously Kenny Moore is still good in the slot. How are they going to fill in this CB2 spot? Because both of those guys, again, joined the team just before the season started. They haven't been there long. So I think it's going to be a spot where their pass defense is something with the Colts that we look at in future matchups. But no, I'm with you. I think the Colts did play relatively well for 90% of this game, and the turnovers beat them. And when you have 3 turnovers, you're usually going to lose those ball games.
So get this. Again, this is sort of a weird game because I think that the people who look at the box scores and I think the people who go like, oh, they lost the game, they want to hear us talk bad about the Colts. I just told you that I think the Rams are a top 5 team. There's not much. Rams won this game, excellent players, great up front. Not really learning much from this game from the Rams' perspective. They have the ability to reach the Super Bowl this year. I really do, especially if they stay fully healthy. I was actually pretty impressed with the Colts' run game. 17 carries. 76 rushing yards. Okay, so it's not like the Jonathan Taylor nuclear game that we've seen even this season. 4.5 yards per carry average. This is a Rams defensive line that was one of the highest graded defensive lines in the NFL, especially when it came to run defense, and they held the Philadelphia Eagles to a low rushing total and had an 81.3 run defense grade against Philly the week before. The Colts were in a situation where if they didn't run the football at an efficient level, I was worried this game was going to get away from them. Was it enough to win the game? Was it explosive as they had been in weeks past? No. But for them to even be as efficient as they were, run grades above 70 for a lot of the offensive linemen, for Jonathan Taylor himself, for the run game overall, this was encouraging to me that they were able to do this against the Rams defensive line. So, again, in a loss, I was still impressed with how the Indianapolis Colts were able to play in this game. Your most impressive.
Absolutely. Look, one of the guys who forced 2 of those turnovers, Cam Curl at safety. I thought the second interception is the game sealer is going to get the attention. I thought the first one was just incredible. Working across the field when it was cover 6 rotated in his direction. So he's got deep half to the defense's right. I forget who the receiver was. It A.D. Mitchell or Michael Pittman going on the deep over on that first interception?
I don't remember, yeah.
And he basically just goes, you know what? Nobody's coming to the deep half right of the field. I'm going with him. I'm trailing it. I don't even think Daniel Jones made the wrong throw because on the play action, the safety to that side where the receiver was going bit up on the play action enough to where Jones could throw it over his head, and Cam Curl just made an unreal play. And then the second one, Jones trying to take the whole shot to try to win the ball, try to get, actually, I should say, retie the ball game there. But Cam Curl, just fantastic. 6 targets, 2 catches allowed for 22 yards. The 2 interceptions, which you could argue on the first and last drive of the game, you could argue were the 2 biggest plays of the game, and 2 other forced incompletions. Him and Cam Kinchins back there at safety are both just terrific. I mean, this Rams defense is a real problem now at all 3 levels. Last year was kind of just the D-line and the back 7.
They were
trying to keep it
younger last year, and now they're totally legit.
And you can tell that extra year of chemistry with them, too. Now this is a real 3-level defense, and these 2 safeties, Cam Curl and Cam Kinchins, they're a problem, but Curl was spectacular.
Jags and the 49ers, man, talk about a cross-country trip. The Jags go from Jacksonville all the way out to San Francisco to play the Niners and beat them on their field 26-21 in a game that didn't feel as close as the final score indicated, honestly. It felt like the Jags were putting the Niners on their heels all game long. Top 5 graded players that we have for Jacksonville: tight end Hunter Long, a 93.9 at the top of the list. Linebacker Devin Lloyd, an 87.6. Running back Travis Etienne. I always want to say Trevor Etienne. It's the narcissist in
Gator great.
Travis Etienne Jr. Gator great. No, I can't say that. He went to Georgia. He flipped to Georgia. I can't do that. 79.5. Bulldog grade, I guess. Cornerback Jordan Lewis, 75.9. Offensive guard Patrick McCarry, a 75.6. And then Trevor Lawrence in this game, a 60.9. On San Francisco's side of things, Fred Warner graded well, 91.0. Then we got to go to Trent Williams, who's down in the 70s, 78.4. Offensive tackle Colton McKivitz, a 77.1. Tight end Jake Tonjes with a 75.3. Edge rusher Bryce Huff with a 71.7. Brock Purdy a 61.7 in his first game back from that turf toe injury. Seth told the story, Dalton.
Turnovers. Jacksonville with no giveaways. San Francisco with 4 of them. 2 Devin Lloyd interceptions, a Luke Farrell fumble, and the Brock Purdy strip sack from Eric Armstead at the end of the game. Jacksonville, 17 points off turnovers. Trevor, I'm not going to lie to you. I think if I was through 4 weeks giving out an Assistant Coach of the Year award, I think it might be Anthony Campanile, the Jaguars defensive coordinator.
You've been singing his praises for good reason.
The way it's no coincidence to me in any way that Devin Lloyd got 2 interceptions in this game, because I told you in a preview of this game, the Jags right now are the best team in covering the middle of the field in the NFL right now. Here's the craziest stat to me. Through 4 games, it's 2 layers of this. Through 4 games, Jags have 13 takeaways, leading the NFL. You know how many takeaways they had last year?
13.
9.
Oh, man.
All of last season.
That's rough.
They had 9 takeaways the
really
entire
bad.
year last year, and they have 13 in the first 4 games. They defend the middle of the field well. They're fast. The communication is way better than last year, and they're flipping games upside down with the turnover margin right now. 13 takeaways in 4 games is absolutely ridiculous. They got 4 more in this game. Again, 17 points off of them, and then you look at the punt return for a touchdown from Parker Washington. This team is playing 3-phase football, and they're Trevor Lawrence in their passing game coming into the year. Think about it. Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter. We thought that was going to be the reason, if the Jags were good, that they were going to win. That might be the weakest part of their team right now, because they're blocking well up front. They're running the ball well with Travis Etienne. And I'm telling you right now, this defense is probably if you don't know about this Jaguars defense yet, I think it's the most underrated unit in football right now. The turnaround that Campanile has got going with some new personnel on this defense, with some new alignments on this defense, and the star players like Josh Hines-Allen, like Devin Lloyd, Foye Oluokun, Jordan Lewis, those guys, They're playing extremely well. They're playing like stars. But again, I will say it again. This Niner team, they wanted to throw down the middle of the field. Mm-hmm. You're not doing it on this team. You got to attack this team on the outside. Campanile is coaching his butt off right now with this Jacksonville defense.
When it looks good for Jacksonville, it's very easy to buy into this team. Again, when I was doing my power rankings, they were the highest riser. I brought them up 7 spots. It's so easy to want to buy into this team when it is looking good. And the defense obviously is playing really well. Stat that told the story for me, the diversity of the Jags' passing weapons is something that I have loved. I know that we've pointed at it a couple of weeks, but where it's like, they're not getting Brian Thomas Jr. involved, they're getting these other guys involved. But now that we're 4 weeks into the season, now you go, wait a second, okay, I kind of see the vision here for being as diverse as they are. Brian Thomas Jr., much more regular game that you would expect from him. 7 targets, 5 receptions, 49 receiving yards. Brenton Strange, 7 targets, 6 catches, 45 receiving yards. Travis Hunter, 5 targets, 3 catches, 42 receiving yards. Hunter Long, 3 targets, 3 catches, 23 receiving yards. Bayshell Tootin out of the backfield. LeQuint Allen out of the backfield. Travis Etienne out of the backfield. There's just so many different weapons that this team can go to. And last year, it felt like it was just Brian Thomas Jr., him and nobody else. And now it's like, yeah, you want to get more from what we've gotten from him over the last couple of weeks, but you love the fact that this ball could go to anybody. And that they're very diverse in how they're doing things there. I also love the run game. That continues to be so impressive to me. We've talked about it on this show. Liam Cohen, everybody talked about he's going to Jacksonville. Let's talk about Trevor Lawrence. Let's talk about the passing game. Let's talk about all that kinds of stuff. First and foremost, he really helped accelerate the Buccaneers run game when he was the offensive coordinator there last year, and he has done so with the Jags here. Once again, this week, 151 rushing yards, 8 first downs on the ground, 52 yards before contact.
Their offensive line's moving.
Who thought that was going to be the case with the Jags offensive line? He has this offensive line playing a scheme that is getting a lot out of them. And so you have to give it to him, as well as how he is utilizing the running backs that he has to hand the ball off to. So when it is working for the Jags, it looks good. And right now, coming off of that game against the Niners, it looks good.
They're running the ball at the 9th highest rate in the league right now. And I'll tell you another thing I really like when this team, they don't go to it as often as maybe some of the top teams in the league, but their tight ends, their 3 highest graded run blockers, and their offensive line's been solid with those new additions. Their 3 highest graded run blockers, all tight ends. Brenton Strange, Hunter Long, Johnny Munn. They're putting extra blockers on the field. They're building this wall up front. And their run game right now has been far better than their passing game. If they do get Lawrence and Thomas and Travis Hunter, and Parker Washington's been good too, Brenton Strange has been solid receiver too. If they do get the passing game clicking on all cylinders, this could start looking like the Bucs offense did last year. It really could. They just have to get it going. And I do think, I still feel like little by little, Trevor Lawrence is getting there. He's figuring out this system and just how it works and the timing and the chemistry of it all. I think that's going to come slower on a week-to-week basis. But the way they're running the football and the way they're playing defense, this Jags team, I tell you, we've talked so much about the Colts the first month of the season. Tied right at the top, tied for first place with Jacksonville.
Yep.
So this is going to be a fun race with 2 teams that I think have really figured out, with a lot of new personnel, how they want their teams to operate.
Most disappointing for me is the Niners pass rush. Nick Bosa now out for the season, torn ACL. 50.2 pass rush grade for the Niners. 0 sacks, only 2 pressures in this entire game, and a 19.4% pass rush win percentage. You know what the middle number was in the NFL for team pass rush win percentage this week?
Probably in the low 40s.
43.2%.
Nailed it.
And the Niners had a 19.4. You're not even close to the middle.
Bryce Huff is the only guy you really worry about.
But that's the problem.
Yeah.
Is that the additions that they made, and you can't see this coming, and so I'm not going to sit here and just play this game of hindsight. But Mykel Williams, why'd you draft him? Run defense. C.J. West, why'd you draft him? Run defense. He can do a little pass rush for you, but run defense. Alfred Collins, why'd you draft him? Run defense. You drafted all of these players to say, we're going to get way better at run defense, which they had to do. I want to be very clear. But the whole thought was, we get these guys in the building, pair them with Nick Bosa, give a little splash to Bryce Huff, and we'll be good to go. Without Nick Bosa, I don't know if this works.
No, I mean,
right?
And
it's the Robert Saleh problem of...
We're not going to blitz.
That's the thing. Somebody's got to get home. Without Nick Bosa, you're in a scheme that doesn't blitz. So that's what's most disappointing for me, is that until this gets better, it's going to be hard for me to buy into what the Niners are going to be doing on the defense side of the ball, because I don't think the scheme lends itself for them adjusting to, mitigating the loss of Nick Bosa.
No, it's a personnel problem. There are two guys, and we all know them. There's two guys in this defense they absolutely could not lose: Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. You lose one of those guys, you're in major, major trouble. And look, similar vibe to last year with the Jets defensive line, and they don't blitz much, where when Jermaine Johnson got hurt, oh boy, it got bad in a hurry with the Jets, and the play, especially the snaps that Quinnen Williams wasn't on the field. It's the same vibe in San Francisco right now. The Nick Bosa injury, really for the impact that it has on his team, is one of the most devastating losses that could be. Similar vibes to last year when Aiden Hutchinson got hurt and we all just knew, it's kind of the same thing here. And Warner makes up for a lot in run defense. Those guys are solid run defenders. Mikel's been pretty good in run defense. But at this point, yes, Bryce Huff. But if Bryce Huff is your best pass rusher, that's not the idea.
Yeah.
That's not what you want. So
any of the shout-outs?
It's concerned. Just real quick, Devin Lloyd in this game, man. What a beast. 87 run defense grade with 2 run stops, 2 interceptions, 2 other coverage stops. Rushed a passer 3 times and got a pressure on 2 of those. Devin Lloyd playing like one of the best linebackers in football, and I'll just keep saying it. Do not throw over the middle of the field on this Jaguars, on this zone defense, because you are going to run into a lot of problems.
Ravens and the Chiefs. 1-2, both of these teams going into it. We knew one of them was going to be 1-3, because I wasn't about to manifest a tie between these two teams.
You didn't want
we weren't going to
40-40 in this one also?
No, I would have protested the result.
Oh, wow.
Chiefs end up winning this one in Arrowhead, 37-20. Top 5 graded players that we have for the Kansas City Chiefs: linebacker Leo Chenal with a 90.1 at the top of the list, center Creed Humphrey an 83.7, safety Jaden Hicks an 82.5, wide receiver Xavier Worthy an 81.0, edge rusher George Karlaftis a 75.5, and then quarterback Patrick Mahomes with a 71.6. On Baltimore's side of things, all due respect, Justice Hill being the guy at the very top, probably not what you want. 83.0. Offensive guard Andrew Voorhees right behind him with a 75.5. Offensive tackle Roger Rosengarten with a 74.8. Wide receiver Zay Flowers a 78. And then safety Kyle Hamilton with a 70.4. Lamar Jackson in this one a 45.8. And as you know, we started I want to hear your stats that told the story in this game, but injury is just so bad for the Ravens right now. Nani Madubuike is out for the year. Roquan Smith out for a couple of weeks with a hamstring injury. Lamar in doubt for this week. Marlon Humphrey out for multiple weeks. I mean, they are just absolutely going through it. And so this is a team that is now 1-3. And you know how we talk about some teams like, the cavalry's coming, they're going to get a little bit more healthy. It's okay. They're 1-3, and it's looking worse as the weeks go on. This team's getting more beat up, and it's just. Stat that told the story in this one, maybe beyond the injuries, sort of what we have moving forward for either of these teams?
Let's go with the Chiefs first.
Okay, we'll talk about the Chiefs.
This was the first game of the year where it looks like, okay, that's the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Even against the Giants, kind of ugly. This was the Kansas City Chiefs. I agree. I think it's no coincidence that Xavier Worthy gets back to give some level of speed to this offense, and they look like they have the best offensive day of the year. Worthy, my most impressive guy, I think most impressive / most important, 78.5 receiving grade, 83 yards, had the big end around too for an explosive run. But the stat that sums up this game is, aside from the Gardner Minshew kneel downs at the end, Kansas City got into Baltimore territory on every single drive. That you do that, and you're probably going to win ball games unless you go 0 for 6 in the red zone, which can happen. But Mahomes with a season-high passing grade, big number. Kansas City on designed runs. I know rushing yards are weird and rushing grades are weird with this team because Mahomes in the scrambling. 112 designed rushing yards, season-high for this team. Whether it's Pacheco or Kareem Hunt or Brashard Smith, any level of balance is great. Xavier Worthy coming back as the speed element is great. Stay healthy this time. Gets a little bit better now that you've got some vertical threats. You get Rashee Rice back in week 7, then it'll start to look a little better than that. This is when you start, if you're the Chiefs and you're watching this team, you go, okay, now you start stacking good performances. They look like this on offense again next week. Now we go, okay, they're back. They're fully back now. The Chiefs offense, for the first time this season, looked the way it was supposed to.
No, I agree with you completely. My stat that told the story is just the fact that the Chiefs punted once in this game, and it wasn't until late in the fourth quarter when really didn't matter anymore. They started this game field goal, touchdown, touchdown. They had a missed field goal, and then they start the second half, touchdown, field goal, touchdown. They punt, and then the game is over after that. And so they were just clicking on all cylinders. And you could see what the vision for this team was with Xavier Worthy out there. You really could. Just how they wanted to emphasize that speed, how Xavier Worthy, whether he was getting the ball or not, was getting other players open. Travis Kelce getting catches, Juju Smith-Schuster getting catches. Like that is what they wanted to do. And when they lost him at the beginning of the season, I mean, that is one of those players that they have a trait on offense that you cannot replicate. And we knew that was going to be the case, and we just wondered what it was going to look like when he got back. It looked fantastic for this team. And so obviously Rashee Rice is going to come back as well. And so we'll get a real look at what the Chiefs, the real Kansas City Chiefs is, because I don't feel like we've seen that yet. I really don't feel like we've seen what the real Kansas City Chiefs are going to be this season. My most impressive, the Leo Chenal interception was nuts. So Leo Chenal, obviously, he is a heavier linebacker for them. He's kind of like a throwback Sam linebacker, which we don't really see a lot anymore because nickel is the new base, as they say. Even when you have three linebackers on the field, they kind of got to be able to cover whatever. But Chenal is this linebacker who they will line him up against centers. Like, they will line him up almost like as a stand-up nose tackle, it feels like sometimes, because he is strong as an ox. He can play on the line of scrimmage so well. So on this play, he was close to the line of scrimmage, and he was matched up against Mark Andrews. The ball is snapped, and Leo Chenal just gives Mark Andrews a shove, and Andrews, stumbles back a step, and he's like, okay, I wasn't expecting that. He gets him off his route enough where he's able to actually stay hip for hip with him all the way up the wheel route and the sideline, and I'm going to be honest. If Leo Chenal's in coverage against Mark Andrews,
feel good about that.
You feel I do not blame Lamar for letting the ball go. Of course you let the ball go. And it was just an incredible job for him to stay step for step with him, turn around, grab the interception. That was truly just the most impressive thing that I saw in this game. And then to me, the most disappointing is I put down here the Derrick Henry script, because if the problem with the way that the Ravens are playing right now isn't just that they're not playing well. It's that they're not defending the run really well. So they're losing the time of possession battles against teams. And they're getting behind on the scoreboard. So teams are sort of having a double negative against the Ravens, where you're controlling the ball against them, so you're salting the game away. You're making so there's less possessions. You're getting up on the scoreboard. And both of those things heavily weigh against the Ravens being able to lean into Derrick Henry the way that they need to, especially with all the injuries that they have on their team. So it's tough to look at this situation for the Ravens, and not only from a health perspective, but also just a game script perspective of dude, this Ravens team's about to turn into some of the Titans teams of the past, where they go, all right, we'll just hand Henry the ball off 30 times and hope it wins us the game.
Well, if Lamar Jackson's out, yeah, you're going to have to.
But that's what I'm saying. That's with Lamar, that's sort of what I was saying, is if Lamar's hurt, we might get to a point this year where that's just all the Ravens have. And they're just going to give them 30 carries a game. It doesn't really matter whether they're up, whether they're down, no matter what the score is. So this season, and just the scripts that they have had in games have weighed heavily against what the Ravens actually want to do. And I think it starts with the fact that they can't defend the run. And unfortunately, with no Roquan Smith, with no Nnamdi Madubuike, it doesn't look like they're going to get better at doing that.
No, I mean, you talk about the last 2 weeks, they have a 38.4 defensive grade. Not great. I mean, we saw the Lions run, and even the Chiefs in this game set a season high with design rushing yards. This is a real issue, and Roquan's the leader of that defense. Madubuike's a leader on that defense. No, they're we thought this would be the team that would be more likely to dig out of this hole, but these injuries now are a serious
when
problem.
You're this unlucky,
and even if Lamar's not playing this week, I understand having to ride Derrick Henry. I'd probably ride the run game. They're playing the Houston Texans this week, right? I would ride the run game against the Houston Texans, but if Cooper Rush is playing against that pass defense, boy, you're looking pretty one-dimensional. And then you're 1-4. And then you play, I think there was another good team, and then you play the LA Rams. Not great. I mean, it stacks when you lose these early games, and games that, the Bills game, they should have won, obviously, right? They blew it in the last 4 minutes. The Lions game, defense got away from. This game, defense getting away from. It's not great. And even offensively, again, I know on the scoreboard they put up a lot of points. They didn't play a great offensive game against the Browns either. They didn't.
Right.
The points say so, but you dig in and you watch and you go, they were grinding and the defense got turnovers. It's not firing on very many cylinders right now in Baltimore. And they're, I think against the Texans this week, they're in almost a must-win situation.
Right. It gets in trouble if you lose this game coming up. Anything else?
Just footnote, Lamar Jackson with his lowest passing grade since week 13 of 2021.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I believe it,
We don't see. And I meant to bring up the Chanel interception as well. I was glad you brought that up. That felt like just this big emotional shift in, because remember the Ravens scored on the first drive,
right?
And we were like,
oh, it's not like they got blown out of that game.
We were like, oh boy, the Chiefs are in trouble,
right?
And then they were driving down the second drive to score again, and then Chanel makes that play, and it just felt like, I mean, there's momentum shifts, and then there's just it felt like Leo Chanel just took the momentum away in this game, and never let go of it.
Yeah,
it's almost single-handedly, just unbelievable play, and it turned this whole game upside down.
The Chicago Bears and the Las Vegas Raiders.
What a game this was.
What a game. 25-24. A lot of fireworks in this one. Some good fireworks, some bad fireworks, but there were fireworks nonetheless. Chicago's top 5 graded players as they did win this game. Safety Kevin Byard, 2 interceptions in this one, a 94.1 grade. Cornerback Tyreek Stevenson got an interception himself, a 93.3. Defensive tackle Andrew Billings with a 66.9. Offensive guard Joe Tooney, a 66.6. And then edge rusher Montez Sweat with a 66.5. Caleb Williams in this one, a 62.2. On Las Vegas' side of things, edge rusher Max Crosby, I mean, at a takeover type of performance in this game, especially in the red zone. He had a 91.5 overall grade. Dalton, he had a 94.6 grade just when they were defending in the red zone with all his batted passes and just how he was able to get after the quarterback and affect the play. He was unbelievable in the red area. Running back Ashton Genty, an 83.4. Offensive tackle Colton Miller with an 80.3. Edge rusher Malcolm Kuntz, an 80.2. And then offensive guard Jackson Powers Johnson, a 76.1. I wonder if he got a good boost there from that tackle that he made on Kevin Byard on one of the interceptions. Do you see that? No?
I did see that. He doesn't, we don't, because it's weird to tackle and he's an offensive player, but he
looks like the guy, if you pause that interception as Kevin Byard is like approaching him, he looks like the evil villain on the end of the hallway in like a horror movie where he's just standing there and waiting for.
You mean like Genty stands every play?
A little bit, yeah, okay. Yeah. And Kevin Byard's just coming towards him, and Jackson Powers Johnson just lays into him. Great form tackle, slams him to the ground, and you can see Jackson Powers Johnson gets up and he gives like a little like I'm giving himself credit for like
offensive linemen love those opportunities.
Of course,
that's their favorite thing ever, really.
I didn't mention it, but Geno Smith, 27 points, 29.7 overall grade in this one. Not good, but we'll talk about him in a second. What was your stat that told the story?
First of all, I just got Kevin Byard, too. Speaking of him, you got to love the tweet after the game. Year 10, I think I still got it. Great team win. Love that. 10 years into it. And
he's a cool dude.
Just still balling.
Cool dude.
Man.
He's been
Great
on this
stuff.
program, I think, a couple of times. He's a cool dude. Love Kevin Byard.
So, I mean, yeah, you mentioned Geno Smith, and it's just in general the mistakes the Raiders made in this game, and they were ahead until close to the very end of it, and then they still had a chance to get ahead of it as time expired. But you look at 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions, an Ashton Genty fumble, 17 points for the Bears off of Raiders turnovers, and then the blocked field goal to end it when Geno brought him down to win the game. And again, these block kicks, it's a theme early in the season. Special teams coaches are about to be on the hot seat in several different places. But, I mean, the Raiders, they made too many mistakes to win this game. And the Bears took advantage of their opportunity. Caleb Williams with the touchdown to Roma Dunze to take the lead there. Mm-hmm. Just a spectacular throw. I mean, just an unbelievable throw that he made there. I think this Bears team, this was a fun game. I had a feeling this was going to be a game where if they were going to win it, they really had to go out there and battle some adversity. And they did in this game. It wasn't clicking on all cylinders like it was last week against Dallas. They had to fight through a deficit. They had to put together a big-time drive to take the lead. And then even on defense, they cracked a little bit. Field goal opportunity came, and they wound up blocking it. I just think the Raiders, they left the door open. I think that's the best way to put it. When you're in a game like this at home and you have a lead against a young team, you leave the door open. Ben Johnson and the Bears, they're going to find a way in this game to just scratch out a win and get out of there with a cross-country trip with a win. So credit to the Bears for hanging in there. I think because how many times in recent years have we seen the Bears lose that exact game.
No, it's true. No, you were totally right. Honestly, my staff that told the story is the Bears in the red zone. They were, let me find this. They were, where's the red zone here? 1 of 4 in the red zone. So they really struggled in the red zone. If they would have actually capitalized on their red zone tries and got a touchdown or 2 in there, they win this game pretty handily because of the turnovers. So I think that the stat that told the story is that Chicago should have won this game by more. They just didn't convert when they were in the red area. Now, I do want to give them credit, right? I don't want it to sound too negative on Chicago because this is a game where we've watched this team lose over the last 4 years. And they didn't lose this one, which is definitely an important part of this. So I want to give the Bears their credit. A bunch of interceptions. On Geno's side of things, Geno was the most disappointing here for me. 27 passing grade, 3 turnover-worthy plays, 0 big-time throws. When I watched the throws from Geno, I don't think that they were that different from a lot of like Geno throws that you would normally see. He was just off on them. Like he was way in front or way behind. I mean, the Tyreek Stevenson interception that cannot happen. I can't remember which wide receiver it was that he was throwing to, but that guy's open, like way open. And he throws that ball so poorly that Stevenson has a chance to dive and get the interception for it. So it was just like, it wasn't even I'm not even necessarily criticizing Geno's decision-making because he's always going to be a risky quarterback. Like, he's always going to put it in harm's way because he's that big-game hunter type of a guy. But it was the accuracy that was really what let him down in this one. So that was my most disappointing to go along with what could have been an even bigger win for the Bears.
Couple interesting Geno stats. First of all, uncatchable pass rate per our quarterback charting. Mm-hmm. Highest, Caleb Williams. Okay. Second
is Geno
Smith,
yeah.
Which you're not exactly used to. I also have some crazy. You want a crazy split on 10+ yard throws, okay?
Okay.
Weeks 1 and 3, the 2 weeks where the passing game was kind of rolling. They lost to the Commanders last week, but weeks 1 and 3, Geno Smith on 10+ yard throws. You ready for this? 19 for 30, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 92 passing grade. All right. Weeks 2 and 4. All right, we're playing the Chargers and the Bears. These 2 losses. 10+ yard throws, 0 for 17.
No way.
With 6 interceptions. You talked about it. It doesn't look any different necessarily, just kind of missing, inconsistent. Doesn't get any more inconsistent than that. I got 2 games where he's 19 for 30 on vertical throws.
My goodness.
And 2 games where he's got 2 offers against the Chargers and the Bears on 10+. 0 for 17 with 6 interceptions. The best thing he does is push the ball vertically downfield.
Yeah.
The problem is he is the new definition through 4 games of high variance. Doesn't get any more high variance than that.
No, that's a crazy level.
That's week to week. You don't know right now which Geno Smith you're getting.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Somebody in the chat's talking about Max Crosby. He was unbelievable in this game. He tried to single-handedly will his team to a victory. He really did. I will say this, the interception, this goes into the red zone a little bit where, again, I'm nitpicking. The Bears won the game, and we're giving them credit for winning the game, but what we want to see is sustainability to be able to see this in the weeks to come. Caleb, I think, just struggled. I feel like the offense overall it was playing really tight when they got to the end zone. There wasn't a lot of space. There wasn't a lot of explosive plays. They were just playing really tight, and the play calling I felt like was a little tight when they got into the red zone. Caleb threw the interception to Max Crosby, and I think some people might look at it and be like, okay, well, that's just a great play by Max Crosby. Unfortunately, go back and watch the play. That ball is getting picked off no matter what. That ball is getting picked off whether Max Crosby gets a hand on it or not, because Caleb is about to fire that football to DJ Moore, who's in the end zone, and there is a safety staring at him. He is looking straight at Caleb Williams, and the second that ball would have got close to him, he would have picked that off. So it would have been a bad decision no matter what. But I'll tell you, the Caleb Williams-Rome Odunze connection is fantastic this year. 8 targets, 4 catches in this one for Rome, 68 yards. That touchdown's excellent. I mean, that is a layered, timing, paced throw. I mean, everything about that throw is fantastic to Rome Odunze, and very clearly he trusts him a lot. When he wants to have a big throw, he is looking Rome's way, whether it is to the sideline, whether it is over the middle. I mean, he is his go-to guy in all facets, and it's great to see that connection. It really is.
No, absolutely. He's been their best. Rome Odunze's been their best offensive player so far. I think to your point about red zone, there's three things on this. One, it's a very young team, and sometimes young teams punching it in at the end of the drive, it's a big obstacle. Two, new play caller, obviously with a young quarterback. So Ben Johnson's trying to figure out with this team what works in the red zone. And three, this Bears team is not running the football well either. And when you don't have that two-way go in the red zone, the windows get a lot tighter. In this game, 23 carries, design carries for 49 yards. They are going to have to run the football better at some point here in Chicago.
Yeah.
Especially, you mentioned if you don't have that rushing threat down in the red zone and your run blocking isn't good enough down there and you're trying to throw the ball every time you get down inside the 10, it just gets hard. So right now, because to me, that's the big thing. They need to find the consistency in the run game so it can loosen that up a little bit and create space on the back end down there.
By the way, speaking of the run game, looked better for the Raiders. And not just Genty's numbers overall. Like, there were a handful of plays where I go, okay, I see the O-line here. This is the O-line that we saw with the Raiders last year that we thought that we were going to get this year. So we saw it again this week. So that maybe allows us to think, hey, this isn't just going to be a terrible year for the offensive line. It could bounce back. It could be better. It wasn't perfect.
And then there's the problem of Colton Miller might have a high ankle sprain. So that makes things a little bit harder. They don't know if or how long he's going to be out. But right when you got some momentum going.
I'm trying to be positive.
I know. I always have to throw a damper on things. Well, we could be positive about Kevin Byard, too. Year 10, still going strong, like he mentioned. 2 interceptions. Both spectacular plays.
Great plays.
I thought, too, on those interceptions and even throughout the game, I'll just credit Dennis Allen, too. I thought he did a great job of just constantly changing the picture on Geno. Also, there's times where Dennis Allen can get a little too aggressive, maybe a little too much man coverage, but I thought he did a great job in this game mixing the picture. And when you have a safety, especially like Kevin Byard with as much experience as he has, and he's always in the right spot, that's how you wind up with a game like this for him. So Kevin Byard, and those 2 interceptions, they could not have been bigger plays as far as turning this football game in the Bears' favor.
Let's talk about Thursday Night Football for a bit. Seahawks win this one 23-20 in Arizona. The top 5 graded players that we had for Seattle in that game: linebacker Ernest Jones with an 87.1, wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba an 85.9, cornerback Devon Witherspoon 78.1, all over the field. I'll get to that more in a second. Running back Zach Charbonnet a 72.8, and then offensive tackle Abraham Lucas rounding it out with a 72.0. Quarterback Sam Darnold in this one a 73.6. And then for the Arizona Cardinals, their cornerback Keitrell Clark at the top of the list with an 82.7. Defensive tackle Dalvin Tomlinson next with an 82.7 as well. Defensive tackle Calais Campbell, the ageless one, with a 75.3. Edge rusher Zaven Collins a 72.5. And then center Yalda Froldholt with a 72.5. Kyler Murray a 52.5 in this one. Stat that told the story, Dalton.
So I think the Seahawks just kind of keep chugging along because they have an identity, right? They're going to play solid defense. They got the zone run game going a little bit with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, and Sam Darnold's playing fantastic football. I'm going to do a film breakdown on him later in the week as well. But
love it.
The Seahawks have an identity. Fantastic. That's why they're winning ball games. That's why they're 3-1. Very close to 4-0. I don't think we're talking enough about how close the Seahawks are to 4-0 because they were about 15 yards from it. The Cardinals, the identity's kind of lost right now. Last year,
well, they're just inconsistent, right? They don't know what they want to be. On the games that Kyler's good, Marvin Harrison Jr. is bad. And the games that Trey McBride's good, Kyler's bad. And the games that the passing game is good, the running game is bad. Like, I feel like there's not a lot of games where things go right for the Cardinals.
Okay, but take the run game right there. That's right where I'm going.
Okay.
If it's bad because of poor execution or a lack of talent somewhere on your team, that's one thing. Now, losing James Conner is not good.
Obviously,
you don't love
doesn't
that.
help.
And one of them was a swing pass to Greg Dortch that was a backwards pass, lateral, whatever. We had 13 design carries in this game.
Right.
Really 12, if we're being honest about it. If I go with that number, the 12 design carries, that's their fewest in a game since 2019, Kyler's rookie year. And then you talk about, okay, so now, because I'm watching this tape back again, and even watching it the first time, and this isn't just, fourth quarter hurry up to down 2 scores. And they did. Kyler found a way, but this is where they're the most comfortable. And the problem is it looks like, take like a Mike Leach offense or something, like they're just throwing the ball every play now. Mm-hmm. And last year, the last 2 years, the problem of playing against the Cardinals was, hey, they're really physical. They're going to get after us and run downhill. We better buckle up. That's not what the Cardinals are doing right. Last year, they ran the ball 40% of the time. middle of the pack-ish kind of rate. But when they did it, obviously it was big, strong offensive lineman and James Conner and then Kyler with the read option, and then everything worked off of that. Nothing's working off of anything right now. And the other problem is, and I mentioned kind of that air raid-ish kind of offense, it's not like they're throwing vertically either. Kyler Murray through 4 weeks has a 6.1 yard average depth of target, which is extremely low. I'll have to see if it's the lowest in the league, but it's probably bottom 5.
It's probably the lowest of his career, at least.
Easy. Oh, yeah. I mean, it is right now, where did it go? It's 6.4. Sorry, 6.4 through the first 3 weeks. The only starting quarterback with a lower one is Aaron Rodgers. And we've talked about how they don't throw downfield at all. Right. So you have Kyler Murray. So they're not explosive in the pass game because they're basically choosing to just go quick game all the time. And the run game, they seem to be just abandoning it. And if this Cardinals team, I know James Conner got hurt, but you got to find a rushing attack. You have to choose to run the football, even if you know it's not going to be fantastic like it certainly was last year. I think there's an identity crisis with this Cardinals offense. And the difference in this game to me was Seattle knows right now, even despite all the new pieces and Clint Kubiak and Sam Darnold, Seattle knows right now exactly who they are. And the Cardinals offensively,
they don't.
No. And defense, and again, the Cardinals defense, they're playing good enough to win ball games. Mm-hmm. And Jonathan Gannon, they went out of their way. The D-line looks good. The secondary, despite being banged up, looks good enough right now despite the injuries. They got to find an offensive identity and figure this out because the lack of explosiveness is really hurting this team right now.
For the Seahawks, because I want to talk about the Seahawks side of things, because I do agree with everything that you said for the Cardinals. You broke down some heavy tight end personnel for the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to do so for the Seattle Seahawks here. Their 2 tight ends, Elijah Arroyo and A.J. Barner, combined for 7 targets, 76 receiving yards, and a touchdown in this game. They're very much a part of the offensive identity of what the Seahawks wanted to do in the run game and in the pass game. They ran 12 personnel, 27 out of their 66 offensive snaps this game. They had an 89.5 rush grade when they were in 12 personnel. And I already talked about the passing success that they had. So this team, I think, has the ability with these 2 tight ends to lean into those heavier packages more and truly be a heavy personnel type of a team that gives them the ability to run the ball or pass the ball from either of these sets. And that's where, man, I feel like we're seeing so many tight end mismatches across the NFL because as teams are trying to get lighter, they're trying to get faster, less linebackers on the field, more defensive backs, all that kind of stuff. When teams go heavy, a lot of times they cannot match it. Or at least if teams go heavy consistently throughout a game, it eventually is just, like water on a rock, and they will eventually break through. With the Seahawks, they can go to this, I feel like, at any time with 2 tight ends that they trust a lot in Barner and Arroyo, especially as the season is going on. It feels like we get more trust there from them. So really successful in the passing game with both of these tight ends, and when they have heavy personnel on the field, almost an elite team rushing grade. So love the diversity and the balance that they get to have on offense with that type of 12 personnel set.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. My favorite play in this game was probably the A.J. Barner out and up touchdown. Mm-hmm. I don't think I ever saw him once run that route at Michigan. Because he was the blocker, the blocking complement to
exactly.
Colston Loveland and all of that.
Yes.
He's showing a little bit more as a receiver than I saw from him in the draft. And you could not have 2 tight ends that complement each other better. In that same dynamic as Barner used to have with Loveland, than Barner and Arroyo. It's fantastic. Yeah. And to your point, I had to look this up just now. The Seattle Seahawks, and they only run it right now at the 14th highest rate. They could use it more. They could lean into it more. And Clint Kubiak, you can see with certain shots that he wants to take. The Seattle Seahawks right now, when they're in 12 personnel, have the highest offense grade in the NFL.
I believe it. And it wasn't going to happen right away, right? Because Arroyo's a rookie. Like, it was going to take a little bit of time. I think they're on the exact timeline that you want to be, to where we get in the middle of the second half of the year. This is a team that their 12 personnel packages are pretty scary, and very impactful.
Absolutely, and it's coming. And if Barner's a receiving threat, and he's an excellent blocker, we know Arroyo can run. Smith and Jigba's been one of the 6 or 8 best receivers in football this year. Cooper Kupp's been a solid compliment, and it's funny because they've gotten away from having Torrey Horton's become a deep threat too. So if you want to get an 11 and throw him out there as a they have a lot of weapons, and I thought this Seattle offense could eventually look like this. I didn't think they would do it this early, and Clint Kubiak is only starting to find the right mix of guys in any given situation. This is a lot of fun to watch. And then at the center of it all, I'm going to break it down further later this week. Sam Darnold, 4 weeks into it, he is the third highest graded quarterback. It's Marcus Mariota, of course, and Dak Prescott is ahead of him by a microscope. Sam Darnold's been fantastic.
Yes, he has.
And again, the familiarity with Kubiak. And then all he has to do is adjust the personnel. You look at Sam Darnold and the confidence he's playing with. I think the stat for me that tells it the most with Darnold, the 5th fastest average time to throw in the league. Last year, he was up around 3.1 seconds.
Right.
He's at 2.56 right.
He's clicking
The decisiveness, it's not a new system for him. Everyone thinks, new team, new system. It's not a new system for Sam Darnold. It's the same thing. He had Kubiak as his QB's coach in San Fran. It's basically the same system he ran with Kevin O'Connell, and you can see the same exact concepts in the passing game. This is why this was so I just didn't think it would work this well this early. I thought it would take a month and a half before they got to this point, and it was like, okay, we figured it out. The fact that it's this soon, we're going to talk about the Rams a lot. They're super talented. Mm-hmm. Seattle's in this NFC West race.
1,000% they are. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely they are. And I knew that was going to be the case for this team, especially if everybody stayed healthy, because I think they were always poised to be a team that got better as the year went on, in my opinion, because they had some pieces. Yeah, I'll talk about one in a second. Devon Witherspoon, he was my most impressive in this game.
Good to see him back.
78.1 overall grade, 76.1 run defense grade, 93.0 pass rush grade, led the team in total tackles, had 53 snaps from the slot, had 3 as a defensive lineman, 4 in the box. Dalton, they play Devon Witherspoon in the slot not just because he's a great cover corner, but also because they can move him anywhere. When you play, this is the argument that I had for Cooper DeJean and why he was a top 10 player in the class for me, and why some people were like, well, if he can't play as an outside corner, is he really that valuable for you? If he can tackle and cover the way that Cooper DeJean can with his ball skills, that is valuable for you. Devon Witherspoon's the same way. I had him as a top 5 player in his draft class, and the reason why is because he's 180 pounds, and this dude can hit. Dalton, they have him lined up as the will linebacker sometimes. They have him lined up as a true linebacker at 180 pounds because he can hit, because he will fly to the ball and he will tackle your ass. So not only am I encouraged by what I'm seeing with Devon Witherspoon, when Nicky Manwari gets back and he's healthy, this is the role that I thought, look, I wasn't the biggest fan of Manwari when he was coming out. I think consensus had him somewhere around like the 30s on the draft grade. I think I had him like in the 60s. And the reason why is because I always felt like Nicky Manwari, not that he wasn't supremely talented, very athletically gifted, but I felt as though his landing spot was going to mean a lot towards his success in the NFL. And when he got drafted by the Seahawks, I was like, no, we're good, actually. Yep. This is it. That was the number one spot where I would have wanted him to go. And the reason why is because what they are doing with Devon Witherspoon right now, part of that, not all of that, but part of that, you can do with a bigger, stronger, I don't want to say faster, but version of what you were trying to get with that customization of the role that Devon Witherspoon plays. So he's been out since week 1 with an ankle injury. When you get him back and healthy, if that's the role that he can play for you, it was a little bit spotty when he was at South Carolina because there were times when he didn't want to be physical, and you were like, do I really want you around the box a lot if you don't want to be physical in all plays? But if that's his role on this team, if he just focuses in on that, I think there is a world where he becomes that defensive player for them. So I get really encouraged about what the Seattle team is on offense and on defense the further we go in this season.
Absolutely. They're so well coached, and I think one thing, Witherspoon, I was just going to say, linebacker's soul in a cornerback's body. Yeah. Just unreal aggression, and he's been like that since he was at Illinois. One thing that we've talked a lot about offensive personnel usage, even with this team. You talk about this with Manwari, and I think the Kansas City Chiefs do a great job of it with all the pieces they have in there. So think about guys like Jaden Hicks and Shamari Connor in that secondary, right? You could have a similar vibe where, again, you're in base. You might only have 2 true linebackers, but if you're in, say, your base defense with Kobe Bryant, with Julian Love at safety, and then Nicky Manwari, say, as that third linebacker, and Witherspoon and Woolen outside, or you can get small. You could even pull Manwari off the field and then go Witherspoon in there, and you still have a run-pass defender in that inside spot, third slot, and then you go with Josh Jobe or somebody outside with Woolen, and you're still good with those, especially him and, Darion Kendrick playing well as well for this team. you have options. And what they're able to do, especially with Witherspoon back, and then when Eamon Warrior gets back, is match any offensive person. Even if a team wants to get in 12 and get heavy on them, hey, we're not small. We got this big freaking strong safety. We can move Devin outside like the Chiefs do with Trent McDuffie. Mm-hmm. That flexibility that Mike McDonald has with their defense, that makes them super dangerous. I'm with you when Eamon Warrior gets back too and in a groove. This back seven's about to turn into like an amoeba. Yeah. It's just going to be anything it wants to be at any time.
A lot of potential. Most disappointing for you. Most disappointing for me was Marvin Harrison Jr. I know he had a great second half. You can't have the first half. Like, you're on this team to be the wide receiver one. He's got to be that player for them. I understand that, like, there's going to be times when it's a little bit up and down, but, like, the floor for Marvin Harrison Jr. is too low right now. It has to be so much higher. What they can expect from him every single week has to be so much higher, so he is still a disappointing player to me. What about you?
I'll go most impressive real quick. Is this another great player that we haven't mentioned? Ernest Jones there at middle linebacker. Mm-hmm. What a trade pickup he's been since last year. Truly. And in this game, 80 run defense grade, 79.5 coverage grade. He was flying all over the field, had an interception off the Harrison drop. He was the one who caught the interception off of the Harrison drop on the slant. He chased down Kyler Murray, was credited with a sack. Ernest Jones has been fantastic at linebacker, surrounded by some young players. And I just think for most disappointing, I think Drew Petzing is in the spotlight right now, the Cardinals offense score. I think there's going to be a microscope on him the next couple weeks. Look, there's been some adversity. Again, James Conner's hurt. Things haven't gone great through 4 weeks, and we saw them not go all that great against the Panthers and Saints earlier. There's going to be a spotlight right now on how Drew Petzing can create offense with some of the adversity that they're dealing with right now.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt about that. We got a Monday night doubleheader coming up, and just to flex the PFF app a little bit, we'll pull this up and we'll look at some of the lines, some of the numbers that we have for some of these games. The Jets and the Dolphins. That's the first Monday night. How do we feel about this one? You guys can see it on the screen. I'm moving it up and down. This is the PFF app. You go to the App Store, download the PFF app. This is a little betting tab that you guys see there, but you can see everything. You see all the articles, betting tab, fantasy tab, all that great stuff. So. Jets getting 2.5. How do we feel about it in Miami?
I would like it better if you were getting 3 or 3 and a hook. You'd always like it better. I mean, I don't think Jets money line would even be a horrible bet considering where the Dolphins are at as a team. We'll see how desperate they come out. But Aaron Glenn's for at least 2 out of 3 games had these guys ready to go. I know our app likes a lot of unders generally.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in on a Breece Hall over tonight.
Okay.
That Dolphins defensive line, I think, is a good rebound chance. If they keep playing the way they've been playing, and by all our metrics have been the lowest graded defensive line across the board in football, Jets O-line might have a chance to bounce back after a couple of bad weeks. I think Breece Hall could be, if anyone's going to have a big night for the Jets, I think it's Breece Hall.
All right, so we got the Breece Hall bets. You guys can see all of these for yourself. Again, go download the app, go to the betting tab. You can see all of this good stuff. You can see the cover probability. You see the over-under hit rate, all that good stuff. And then we're shopping the lines as well, so you can see on the right-hand side exactly where those odds are, where we think they're the best, and where you think that you guys have the biggest edge when it comes to placing any of those bets. Appreciate everybody watching and listening to the show as always. If you want to see all the numbers that we talked about here, PFF Plus subscription, the best way to do that. PFF NFL Show 25. They get you 25% off that PFF Plus subscription, so make sure you guys are going to get that. If you would like to be involved in the show, when it comes to a sponsorship standpoint, we would love to talk to you. sales@pff.com is the way for us to connect with us there, and we would love to chat with you. Dalton, we getting wings tonight?
You tell me.
We doing that?
Yeah.
For the Monday night doubleheader? I think we got to do it.
Maybe not the whole doubleheader, but we catch a good amount.
That's true. I don't need to be eating wings for 6 hours as much as I like wings.
Or do you?
Or do we? That's the question.
You always have to ask.
Could be a little marathon like we did, like back in the college days. When you show up at a bar at like noon for the college games, and then you're there until like 8.
Right.
You're trying to see at what point does all you can eat wings stop?
Man, especially with Jets or Dolphins getting their first win of the year. Man, we're split on this too. Oh boy.
Might have to make it happen. All right,
for a Monday night Jet game, well, okay. We'll get wings. We can do that.
However you guys are enjoying Monday Night Football, enjoy it. Appreciate you watching the show. Next time you see us, well, do you have the film room coming out before the Wednesday episode, or is it after the Wednesday episode?
I think it'll probably come out Thursday.
Come out Thursday? Okay. So the next time that you guys see us, it'll be on this channel. It'll be at 1 o'clock. We are doing the preview show, of course, for the next week of games. If you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, please do so you guys don't miss any of the action, and we get to have you in the chat like we always love. For Dalton, I'm Trevor, saying thank you guys so much for watching and listening to the PFF NFL show. See you guys on Wednesday.